We're back for the post MSI episode of Summoning Insight. Although, by the way, as we will actually quite soon, I've no doubt broach into later in the episode, EWC, at the time of recording this show, EWC is less than 24 hours away. I actually feel like people really, I know we had it last year, but people still haven't gotten it in their brain that essentially you just get a rerun of MSI with the worst format and actually one better team. You get Animal Life esports as well there. So it's actually kind of quite exciting. But we will obviously talk mainly about MSI. Now, before we do though, you might know, because on past episodes I've flexed this, that we now have an actual merch store for Last Free Nation. It's obviously lastfreenation.shop, and it has a whole bunch of stuff. It has this mug there. It has like a key thing for the kids who have the fidget issues, as t-shirt, like founder shirt and stuff. And what happened was they ran a giveaway, and basically this was last week on a whole bunch of the LFN content, and you had to go on the LFN Discord into a special like merch giveaway channel and post, I forget, I assume your username or something like that. And basically they've done the results of the giveaway. So you can obviously check out and support our network yourself by going to lastfreenation.shop. But it says the merch giveaway results are in. Congratulations to LFN Discord members Shen, Dig, The Blind Side, and Flourish for being the next lucky winners. You'll all be receiving posters featuring some of the artwork featured on Foreplay from the LFN Culture channel. Someone from LFN will reach out to you to help you get those over to you. More winners will be announced throughout the week. And then I've just mentioned a few of the things that you can see on the store. There's, like I said, there's the Founder Edition t-shirt, which is like the logo of like the microphones instead of the bones on the skull and crossbones, since we went with the whole pirate theme, since that was actually the ethos of this company, was the idea that we're going to be like different from all the other companies in the industry, and we're going to be kind of our own little pirate utopia. Random cute, fun detail for people who aren't aware, by the way. Here's a detail that might actually blow your mind about pirates, if you're only aware of them because of like Pirates of the Caribbean or some stories, is that, believe it or not, pirates were actually much more equitable than normal sailing ships. If you sailed on like a British ship and you were like commandeered to work for the British Navy, you would get something like one share of the treasure or whatever, but your captain would get something mental like 40 times the share, right? On a pirate ship, the pirate would often just get twice the share who was the captain. As in, even the guy just scrubs the deck. So actually, also kind of our philosophy when we made this company, because if you don't know, we give everyone equity within the company who are like the major people behind all the shows, etc. You can also they've got like some jogger trousers, which are really nice fabric. They've got really premium quality material. They've got an awesome desk mat. Like I say, they've got the Foreplay posters, which people won there, of me, Richard Lewis, and Monty as different characters from different movies that we did on the review arc. So anyway, yeah. Support your favourite shows on Last Free Nation directly by purchasing our brand new merchandise at lastfreenation.shop. Get your LFN t-shirts, joggers, desk mats, mugs, and more. We ship worldwide with free shipping to the United States on all orders of over $60. Be sure to pick up your Founders Edition t-shirt with your unique number by the 3rd of August at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time before they are gone forever. Right, let's get into it. Right, it looks like we did, or after the T1 BLG series, that's it. That's all we would have recorded the show. So we hadn't yet done Anyone's Legend versus CF4. BLG was the fly. Let's talk about the BLG FlyQuest one first. So obviously, this matchup is the one that ended up eliminating FlyQuest from the tournament. Right, I'm just going to ask purely neutral, start out really unbiased. Right, Yamato, what did you think of FlyQuest in this series? I mean, BLG was supposed to be one of the Asian teams that was more beatable, probably the most beatable. And then you obviously factor in, everyone had FlyQuest as like the Western hope, didn't they? So what did you think of this series? Should they have won?
I think there was a lot of good, but there was also plenty of bad. I think on the side of good, I think Inspired had probably won, like it's up there in top 5, like best Western individual performances of all time in the series. Like this was like if this turned out to be a win, like if he just topped off with like a crazy Lee Sin game in 5, I think this could surpass like the RNG 2018 series that Perks played when he just smurfed on the LB in the final game. Like Inspired had a crazy series, and I think also Whipple stepped up. I think that he was like a good, right-hand man for Inspired in this series. The set game was really good, and there was clear synergy and clear, opportunities for success in the game. Because in the earlier series against AL, for example, there was these champion choices that Whipple made that didn't really work out against Flounder because he just had more stability. But on the side of bad, I didn't feel like FlyQuest had the same, let's say, flair for their prep work, which of course is difficult when it comes to just fearless. Is that sometimes you just run out of steam, and I think in the final game that Galio first pick was just too strong. I do think there is a point to be made about how these best of fives, like I like what they did in the LPL, that the final game is decided by like a 1v1, so you have even amounts of side selections instead of 3-2, and then the blue side situation in the final game wouldn't happen the same way, because I do think that Galio looking was just too damn powerful. And they matched that with Zillion, and we've seen a Zillion try to pick, like someone tried to pick Zillion, better Zillions than this, tried to pick it into, an Eastern mid laner. I will never forget that BDD set game against
TSM?
Bjergs and Zillion. Yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah, of
TSM
course.
one when they went 0-6,
Yep.
that was a tough one. And in the end, to look at the bad, I would say FlyQuest. I think Masu, in terms of the bar he set last year, I expect a little bit more from him. I think he played like better than some of the other Western ADCs, if not all of them. But I think there was an inconsistency there in terms of being caught and also in terms of the lane phase. I think the same can be extended to Quad. I think beyond the Orianna games, I thought that he was practically like invisible in the entire tournament. He had good Orianna games, but other than that, I think that he was a problem. Like even in the G2 FlyQuest series, it's like Quad was insanely outplayed by Caps in that series. And in terms of that, I think if Quad had a better series, I think they could have beaten Billy on the day.
No, that's why I wanted to go in just with a purely neutral outlook, because I have to say, this is why I don't fuck with FlyQuest super heavy. If you notice, the distinction is a classic Thorin distinction, Yamato. I fuck with inspired, crazy heavy. I do think he's the best Western player in League of Legends. By the way, he looks like he could actually, if he keeps up his career at this sort of performance level, he could be like a contender with Caps for like best Western player ever, mate. Like, look at the body of work he's put together already, how many times he's excellent at his role. It's one of the few people at his role who's comparable to the Koreans. So, but the actual team FlyQuest, I think, are way too randy, mate. They're too random, they're too up and down, and like some of the moves they pull, like that problem with this is, funnily enough, they should be loving EWC. That's the perfect tournament for them. It's all BO3s, etc., mate. You got a chance to play even a team in a BO1 in the opening bracket. Like, that's where you could get an upset. The problem is, winning a BO5 against Asian teams is really hard. And that's why I bring up this BLG one, mate, because BLG was supposed to be the one that you could win. Like, if I'm ever supposed to really believe that whole, like, GenG hype from last year is real, like, we almost beat GenG. You've almost beaten your Team Liquid again. I'm bored of this. I'm bored of you almost winning. I said it on Twitter, by the way. It's a complete checkmate. You are all going to lose when you listen to what I say. Right? Here's a win that EU did have in the last 2 years. EU did have G2 3-0 top esports at MSI. Now you tell me, you can have any of the NA teams. You can have it. Your beloved NRG. You can have Team Liquid. And you got 3 teams to pick from. Now tell me which best of 5 they won on LAN against an elite Asian team. I'll pause for effect. The answer, it never happened. So yet again, another example of where it never happened. And the reason why this one is the most whack one, Yamato, is BLG was right there. Like, first of all, before we even go to the BLG thing, I'll just say what I've said the whole fucking year. The actual craziest downgrade this year wasn't Mickey X to Lavrov. It was fucking Jun to Wei. Like, that never worked. It never did. The joke is Wei himself isn't even here anymore. They got Beishwan, whose job was just don't be Wei. And guess what? He does do that, but he's not a fucking world-class jungler. You see this in this tournament. So I think you actually had, on paper, just like you had with, Yo-Yo played, you had a gap at jungle. When the fuck did the Western team ever get the gap at jungle? That should be like the best chance ever to win. But then you look at that, Inspired in lone can't do it. By the way, I will say, the fucking, I think it was game 1, the Sejuani game he had, that's a fucking chef's kiss right there, mate. That's unbelievable. Like, that's why we all hype the fuck out this guy. But sadly, after watching this series, like, I'm so bored of this. Like, we almost won as far. You have to win eventually if you're the better team. If you consistently don't win, you are consistently not good enough to win the game. That's what that's telling you at that point in time. Remember, you might think some of the teams we think are all jokes at TES. They still fuck around to win massive series, guys, back in the LPL. Like, that's not a joke. So the other thing I hate is this, Yamato. because Inspired and FlyQuest are so deeply enmeshed in that whole LS, we are the drafting fucking ivory tower approach, it means they also just get to fucking skate with these losses. Like, I said this on Twitter, I think it was in the upper bracket series where FlyQuest played, where everyone was going like, oh my God, have you seen this bloody draft from anyone's legend? It's like, they won the game, bro. Think about what you're saying. You're saying that FlyQuest mega outdrafted them, whether it's BLG or anyone said, but then they just beat them anyway. Well, that sounds like the FlyQuest is trash. By your logic, they're getting all these crazy advantages in draft, which is supposed to be decide the whole game. And I'm just going to throw this out there. If you're the drafting wizards, how are you always losing game 5? What's going on here? It's Fearless Draft! Game 5's where you're supposed to be the genius in Fearless Draft. Like that. By the way, you could even make the case, maybe we'll talk about later this episode, that even fucking GenG can't draft Game 5, mate. Like, the format couldn't do more to help you win these series, but you never do for some reason. And I'm with you, by the way. This is why it's really hard for me to do those predictions before these tournaments that people do, where they're like, I think FlyQuest's better than the EU teams. It's like, what am I looking at, though? The only games I care about in NA, sorry, because Team Liquid fell off with Umpty, it's just FlyQuest C9, that's it. And those are really back and forth games. Like, the problem is, when you watch the LTA, like, you could have given Quad the fucking MVP again, mate. The guy was a fucking stud. He never turned up to this tournament, though. Like, if you were hoping, like, look, Knight is much better than him, but, like, he should at least be in the game. You know what I mean? Like, he should be able to go back and forth with him on this one. I thought this was kind of a bit. I thought Jojo Pyun played better against fucking Knight than this guy. Like, what is this? Like, what do you think of FlyQuest overall, you man? Are you a bit critical? Like, surely we got to get a win eventually. We can't just praise them and then have them never win the fucking game.
No, in my mind, it's like coming into the competition, I was worried about their inconsistencies, but I do think that kind of plagued the majority of the teams outside of like GenG and the run-up to even the qualification. Whether it's T1, AL dropping like a couple of series, like best of threes, where they would just randomly get 2-0'd by like a JDG that just lost their coach or some shit, you know? It's like if you remove like the final 4 best of 5s that they played, that they obviously won and smurfed. There was a sense of inconsistency from everybody. I think just from FlyQuest side, I look at what their achievement is to be the best in the West. That's their achievement. Their achievement is being best in the West.
I'll give them that. They looked at the best, yeah.
Because it's like G2 is nothing, and when it comes to MKOI, I was very disappointed in like Eliora's performance at this competition because I just set a higher standard for him. But best in the West, but still not enough. Because like everyone's looking at that game 3 and saying, "Oh, they threw that game 3." It was like Billy threw that game like 8 times. Like, you know, if you don't win when the enemy Nautilus is just running at you like that 5 times straight, like just spending the majority of 5 minutes later in the game as dead, you know, then you know, if you can't take that chance.
PSG themselves elsewhere just got 3-0'd by people, mate. The other really good teams are just clapping. Like, I think they were right there for the taking in this series, mate.
I was like, this was probably like, it's so hard to even compare them to anyone else because it's like we don't have a lot of MSIs where 2 teams are sent. So I want to say is that maybe this is up there, but it's like Top Esports. It's like Top Esports had that mental collapse, but at least Top Esports took GenG to 5 games that same competition, and then they just got 3-0'd because they just mentally weren't in it. Because I did speak to their coach at that same World Championship, and he said this like, "Oh, we are doing meditation, we're doing mindfulness." Right. So I was like, "Bro, that shit did not save you later on when you got smoked by T1 in the competition." But nevertheless, like this Billy is like this is the worst Billy we've had in a long time, ever since like the Tab era started. And if you don't take that opportunity, I think it just is what it is. And I think it just opens up a broader conversation that we haven't talked about too much, but it's like this, it's always that discourse. We talked about it a little bit, but it's like that discourse about, oh, what does Europe need to do? What does the West need to do to compete? And I every time, my conclusion is always like people want to have like one fix. You know, it's like, oh, if you pull this knob, then all of a sudden, you know, all this years and years of experience and, you know, shaping a legacy of players competing in a region, and then that begets new players that want to compete and beat you, and that kind of, you know, creates an ecosystem of players that thrive. And it's like, no, we need to do one thing. It's, oh, players don't try hard enough. They are lazy. There's definitely some of that, but I can assure everyone out there that Koi, Fly, G2, they're not lazy. They're practicing their ass off, and this is the outcome. the issue at the core always is the lack of patience from people. It's Europe has been so terrible for so long. Like last year, it was worse for EU, but people don't want to admit it because at least it was the copium of G2 doing better. But that was the only thing. The Fnatic, the team that always disappointed internationally, was the second best team in the LEC, and it wasn't even close. And if anything, when it comes to European League, it's like this year is a lot better. We have more competitive teams, and that matters. It's like you have GMs and organizations that are trying to take their own spin on things. They're trying to do their own thing at it. But G2 was an outlier because they had Mickey and Caps on the same team. And now they don't have that, and then everything is kind of just exposed. But if you want to have a concrete discussion about what EU needs to do better, it's like, a Fnatic, they were content because they qualified to Worlds over and over again, and they kept the same core for a super long time, no matter how painfully obvious it was that it wasn't working. And then they just made the switch to Poby mid-year. Some other teams are improving, Koi and Casey, and that's a good thing. And then G2 made, a misstep. But the reason like the LCK has been did so well is because they had patience. It's like those down years, 2018, 2019, they didn't rush. They gave, Griffin, and they gave Sandbox, and of course Damwon the time they needed to get ready to win the competition. And sometimes you have down years. And the only person that I thought had a reasonable take was actually Faker, because there was this whole Caedrel run of him asking people that he got, like Chovy and Tabe and so forth. And then he asked Faker, and then Faker said, time will heal. It's like, yeah, time will actually heal, It's like franchising stops some things from healing because some GMs just don't get measured on their performance, and they stick around a little bit too long because of the franchise that is in place. But certain things are moving in a good direction. I think it's important to highlight that. Will the West ever compete? I doubt it. I think there's too many things in place already in China and also in Korea that are just puts you at like a 5-year almost advantage.
All right, let's do it. If you want to do the classic, how do you close the gap? Here's the problem, Yamato. It actually reminds me of people having political or philosophical debates, because what makes the debates not interesting to me is when people at the beginning essentially make it clear they're not going to explore certain ideas. So what will happen is in political debates, for example, people will have ideas like, well, society should exist for the good of all members and everyone should be safe. And it's like, and these are like, that sounds like a simple statement everyone could agree with, but actually that's an incredibly dense statement. You'd have to unpack, like, what does safe mean? Like, for example, when you say should, for example, someone be allowed to not work and then receive an income? Like, these are actually easy things to just immediately decide upon. And I absolutely think if you're not willing to unpack them, you're never going to get anywhere. You're just going to do what people do in politics, which is you just try and present a solution that's for tomorrow, based on what happened yesterday. You don't do like a long-term thing without it. It's more like, do you like this idea? Well, vibe to it. So similarly, right, Yamato, I've noticed 99% of people, actually in your position, industry people who've worked as coaches, want every discussion to start with, it's not about them playing more than us, though. It always has to start there, Yamato, because every dickhead in the West is obsessed with therapy talk. And it's all about the idea that, like, we could burn our players out if we make them scrim too much. 3 scrim blocks like in LPL. No, but we don't do that. Hey, quick, bring in the sports site guy. Hey, guys. This crystal, this actually is my healing aura. See, we're going to work smarter, not harder, right? I'm so bored of that statement, Yamato, that we're going to work smarter, not harder, because I'm not aware of anyone who's ever done it so far. It's a great idea that I've never seen implemented. Like, get me whoever you want, Remain, get me the fucking Mind Body Esports, get me whoever you want who thinks they have a perspective on, like, let's not grind like Asian culture, and show me what their strategy to improving and scrimming was and how it was smarter, not harder. Because as far as I can tell you, Marto, I don't know if the Asians at the LPL and the LCK do the best scrim culture, as in the smartest, but I'll tell you what, they do the hardest. I know that. And you know what? So far, hardest, working like a motherfucker for results, isn't it? You know what? Some would say hardest undefeated in esports history. Because this is what I don't get, Yamato. I'm certainly of the opinion that, like, for example, a lot of Western people won't be suited to this sort of a scrim culture. I think a lot of them will burn out, they won't make it through, and you'll have to be a lot more cynical about who you recruit to your teams to can even live through a 3 scrim block a day culture. That is a crazy amount of games that people don't know. And we're not talking about 3 scrim blocks and you fuck around in one of them. You're supposed to be practicing like with intention in all these games. But my issue is this, Yamato. There is what the problem with the whole, like, yeah, but there's negative consequences to working hard. That's because you're not just trying to be good at League. You're trying to literally be like top 10 team in the world. That means you're competing against the other 9 or 10 people who want that spot. So in that's not the other teams of people. So my problem is this, like I say, it might not always be the best, but so far isn't working really hard, pretty much undefeated in esports. I can tell you from other games, Yamato, in games like StarCraft's a great example, because obviously it's a 1v1 game. It's not a team game, is it? I can tell you that you had incredibly rare people like Stefano in the West who could fuck around and not practice, and they could actually beat Koreans and win tournaments. But you know what? If you ever wanted to see the players who like actually took a level up and then could beat Koreans, they're all the people who practiced like Koreans. So I'll give you a quick one. I've told the story before. When my mate Naniwa was living in Korea to play in GSL, he used to literally play all the time. He knew all the players' barcodes, and he used to always say, every time I touched down in Korea, the first 3 weeks are the hardest because I wanted to just quit the game. I have like 30% win rate. I don't even know because it's all barcode account. I don't even know who's beating me. Like, this could be like a fucking practice partner for a team, not even a player I know or would ever play in GSL. But he said, once I get through the first 3 weeks, though, then like the next month and a half, I just level up. And by the end of like 2 months, I can actually, and this is what would happen, I could get in the playoffs of GSL. Like I could essentially be like someone who has a chance to win the tournament. Similarly, there was a player from Team Liquid, a Norwegian player called Snoot. I can tell you in the era when he got really good, like end of 2012, he just literally said he had some goal, like each day he was going to play 20 games of StarCraft or something crazy like that. And he even said at one point he was playing so much that his dreams were him playing StarCraft and having like matches against people just in his dreams. Like it's almost as though he said, for real, like if I close my eyes, I just see StarCraft games. The input has been so crazy to my nervous system. But I'll tell you what, if you ever go look at the results of the era he did this, he went like whoop, and was like actually in like, you know, semis of massive tournaments with Koreans and stuff. So again, that might not be the best approach, but I'll just ask the question again. What other approaches anyone found? Am I missing something? Like, as far as I can tell, Yamato, you can have the best, like, VOD review culture in the world. You can have awesome coaches. You can have sports psychs. You can have work-life balance. You can have fucking board games that bond you with your teammate. Here's the problem with all that. As far as I can tell, Yamato, 99% of that isn't required by the Asian player. They just get in a fucking room like an old-school LAN, play all day, and then whoever's the best out of them that all played all day wins all these tournaments. Like, am I missing something, bro? Give me some thoughts on this topic, because like you said, don't you feel like it's sort of the forbidden topic? You're not supposed to say maybe we should play harder. It's sort of what you were referring to earlier about not working hard enough, right? Where's your take on this?
No, it's like maybe my experience is with the wrong guys, because it's like on my end, every time I've qualified to Worlds, after Worlds, I had like extreme burnout to the point where like just extreme burnout, which for me was the only way. If it wasn't the case at the end, it's like, what the hell was I doing? It's like you have to exhaust every option possible, and especially when from a coach's side, it's like your condition on match day isn't like the most important thing. It's just more about like the bar and the standard that you set on the day-to-day basis. It's like I have worked with so many teams, so many players, and also interacted with players that are putting in the hours. You know, that's like the main thing. That's why for me, it's like if we spoke to, like, if I reached a G2 and MKOI, I just have this doubt in my mind that they didn't put in like 12, 14 hours days minimum. You know, I just if it's the case.
By the way, when you say that, is that like scrims plus solo queue, you mean?
Yeah. It's like basically your whole life is League. There's nothing else about it. Right. It's like there's ways to optimize it so you don't get injured and so forth, and I think those are all good things. But any pursuit of becoming the best in anything is going to be unhealthy.
people forget to ask you this. You literally coached Sandbox when people like Summit were playing there. What like Sandbox wasn't the best squad. They were maybe like 5th best or something in your era, right? How much did they used to prac in the team there on like an average week? Just a normal week in the LCK. What was prac like?
So we would do the scrim blocks. We would do the first one from 1 to 4, 3-hour break, which meant that like either people were napped or they played solo queue or they watched LPL that was on or LCK that was on. So it's like that break was so intentional and good. And this was something that was so impossible to implement in Europe because it was like, oh, it cuts into my free time, then I can't go home and blah, blah, blah. And it was like, and then it's like, if your team wanted to do it, no other team wanted to do it. Like it was always problematic. But that break was really good. And then we just did at 7 o'clock, 3 games, small break, 2 games. And those 2 games, we always did it against our academy team because I always wanted to try a unique shit. Because in the end, I knew that we needed to become like an outlier to potentially beat like a T1 or a DRX or a DAM1 at the time, because we just couldn't beat T1 in scrims, for example. Like we were legit like 0-40 against T1 in scrims and sandbox. So that was just, it was always active. And all the way till 2, 3, 4 a.m., all keyboards were clacking. We could hear like the atmosphere in the room. Everyone's giga busy. And the standard was super, super high. Because there's one point.
And even when the scrim sessions end, everyone just stays and plays solo queue. That's the premise, right?
But then on occasion, we would have like one break day like every 3 weeks. Because the timing of the schedule was just like right for it. Because usually in LCK, it's like you have 3 days, 3 days of prep, game. 3 days prep, game. So there's like no natural break. So you just don't take a break. But when the break happened, I didn't see a single player. They all just disappeared. They all disappeared. They went home. They went to gaming cafes to play MapleStory. They all just disappeared. I didn't see any of them. So that break day was very cherished, and everything was very intentional. And I have the story of because there's one player called Lonely who was our academy top lane, who was basically the sub top laner for the team. Because before I joined, they had the issue with the head coach just doing the thing where they swap out players. Perma, just swap out players. And then when I joined the team, I said, the weeks until my quarantine is over is going to be a tryout period, and then we're going to commit to 5 so we can build a synergy and a trust between the 5. And this is your moment to show what you're capable of. And then we made the commitment with like the Gorilla, Summit, Root, Fate on Fleek roster. But Lonely was a player who basically, he lost like 200 LP. And our not GM, like the guy below GM, so there was like another role, like assistant GM or something, assistant to the GM. I don't know what his role was. He just came in one day and he just flamed the shit out of him in front of everybody. Just flamed the shit out of him in front of everybody. So it's like, there's 12 players. There's like the main room, second room. So there's 12 players actively playing and 6 coaches. He just came in, he flamed the shit out of him. I was like, what's happening? Because I didn't keep track of the academy too. I just assigned one of the coaches to tracking them. Then I spoke to him. I was like, Genie, like, what happened? He's like, he needs to know this is unacceptable. I was like, okay. I was like, I'm not going to tell you not to do it. I just wanted to know what's up. He's like, I'm going to remove him from the sub spot. I don't want him to feel safe.
Is it because he didn't play enough?
Because he played, but he lost LP.
Oh, he lost. Oh, fucking hell. I was wondering what you meant. Like, that's even crazy. You have to also succeed when you play.
You have to succeed.
Okay.
You can't just fuck around.
Okay. I mean, by the way, I see what you mean, though.
Best team, you know?
That sounds silly, but I know what you mean, Yamato. That means even the guy trying to be the sub has to like kill himself to try and get that job, and he has to really value it and understand that it's not. I see what you mean. That's crazy, but I can see how you'd have a different mindset for sure.
It's like the standard for the things that I needed to, it's like things that I needed to put in place in Europe. It wasn't required at all. All the players looked at VODs. All the players spammed solo queue.
Oh, you don't have to tell them to do it. They just do it themselves, right?
They came in and they were ready. Like if someone wasn't ready, a Joker, like there was one time where our bot lane weren't ready to play Varus, and he was so fucking angry. He's like, they play Varus fucking everywhere. They're playing here. You're not ready to play Varus. Like, how can you call yourself a pro player? You know, the standard of what the bar is to be a pro player is just way higher because the path to becoming pro is also a lot more brutal. I don't know if you heard the story of they post these like documentaries about how like on T1's YouTube, it's like 2-hour documentaries about the players' lives before they join T1.
Oh, okay.
And there was one about Owner, like I'm paraphrasing the story, but basically he had demands to have really high grades in school. He was active on the sports side, and also at the same time, he tried to find opportunities to run to gaming cafes to actually practice League. Up until the point where he got the tryout, and the tryout period for T1 was like 1.5 months, where he had to give up everything.
Hell. Okay.
And if he didn't succeed in that tryout, it's like borderline, your life is over. So it's like the standard and the bar that is set is way different in the West, because most of the time it's like, oh, succeed in solo queue, get a shot, you know? And in some cases that's true too in Korea too, but it's more rare because everyone is so aware of what they're trying to pursue in Korea. And the path to pro is just a lot more clear. We heard the story of Pays, where his parents are like, here, have a tutor. And then the rumor is that Imp was his teacher, but I don't know how substantiated that rumor is.
If true. It sounds like an anime, but it's all good.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, who else could teach Pays to be this good, for a rookie? But just the standard that is set and the bar of entry is just way different. I'm sure it was the same. Like you mentioned, the whole the practice in StarCraft is like, if somehow teams in Europe and the best elite players, like if I could gather 10 players that I could just pick and choose from NA and EU, I'm sure we could make a very competitive roster. But the issue is they're practicing in the wrong environment. It's like the StarCraft homies that you mentioned, it's like they're flying over to Korea and they're getting smacked around.
Absolutely.
And that's so healthy. That's so healthy for you.
That's also the other part, even though we have referenced this definitely in the past. The other part that people don't want to consider, because essentially it involves Riot like undoing their whole global circuit, is the global circuit was based on the notion, which sadly hasn't played out. It's essentially what they do in football, Yamato. It's the idea that the reason why you want like the Bundesliga and League One in France and La Liga in Spain, you want all these leagues, because in theory, if you do it right, they can all get really competitive. But my example would be like FlyQuest is basically fucking PSG in this analogy. They're a really good team from their region, and then the rest of the region's fucking trash. Like League One's dog shit league. Like the joke is most people couldn't even name like 3 players on the 4th best team in League One in football. Like you don't know them. Like no one does. So the problem I have is LEC and LTA are way more like League One than they are like fucking La Liga or the Premier League in this analogy. And so the issue you have is the obvious way to cut this down, like I said, it has been done in both League and StarCraft, is you just go to Korea, then you're there in their practice environment. Now look, that's still not perfect. You're not going to get the same level of scrims necessarily that like T1 GenG, but it's still better. The obvious issue there is you just can't do that in the way the circuit's set up. The circuit is set up, designed in fact, for you to be at home in your region and playing the majority of your games actually in league play in your region. So as long as we have that, you're only ever going to get like top up boot camps. And if you notice, most of these boot camps, bro, except for the World's boot camp basically, aren't even actually useful for practice. They're usually in the off season where it's more like for individual players or trying someone out. It's not really trying to be like the best team in the world in league. Like maybe you just do that on the World's bootcamp. That's about it. And even then, as we talked about a million times, if you fuck up the first 3 days of your World's bootcamp, congrats, your World's bootcamp is now half as good. You're not getting any scrims against the good teams. All because when you got there on day 4, when you were jet lagged, you fucked up a bunch of scrims and your top laner in 4 matchups, and they don't want to play you now because they think they'd rather play at this point I'm CFO, they'd rather play them than you, mate. They don't give a fuck about LTA or whatever your story is. So sadly I do feel like it's a bummer, because like these aren't like perfect solutions, but you can see how they would work. Like if everyone practices as much as possible in a really diligent manner, you can see how that would max their level out. If people can practice against Koreans directly, that would give them a better familiarity, would remove a lot of the fear. These are all great suggestions. The problem is you can't implement them, because as you say, Yamato, anything that involves you have to be in Korea, you just can't do that. Anything that involves like, hey, why, like, because let's be real, this is another discussion people have. We all discuss it like it was one team and one set of players. But as you say, even if G2 listened to this episode and went, you know what, even though actually our approach with the remaining set has been quite different, we agree with Yamato and Thorin. We should just have 3 scrim blocks. The problem would be their scrim blocks would end up having our VRL teams, because the other LEC teams wouldn't do that. Like, guess what? When I see the motherfucking insanely cynical SK Gaming LEC summer lineup announced, I don't imagine that team's going to be playing 3 scrim blocks, Yamato. Crazy idea. And also, what the fuck would you get out of playing that team in the scrim block B? It's fucking that team wouldn't even win the EMEA win. You know what I mean? They wouldn't wouldn't even fucking win Masters. Like, so I know what you mean. These solutions are just hypothetical for now. I don't know how we implement any of them, mate.
I think it's just a question of like the best teams need to do good decisions. They need to keep doing good decisions. And if you're Fnatic and G2, the two best teams of like the lifetime of LEC, made bad decisions, it's going to hurt the league. It's like even from a LPL side, it's like
See, I've got a question for you. I've got a question.
Yep.
I know some people have pointed this out, but obviously teams like Fnatic and they don't have academy teams. Would it help if they had academy teams that they could sort of like make practice against, like, the Korean style where you make your team play against you? Would that help, do you think? Is it not valuable? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it would be valuable. I don't see why it would hurt, but I also come at it from the angle, it's like the same you would, right? It's like from a cost side. Like if anything,
it's going to cost a lot of money, yeah.
If I was a GM of a team, like I would look into the ERL systems of the teams that are doing well, and I would look to form like partnerships, because there's like a lot of teams that just churn out talent and that just find like the right players. Whether
there are definitely some orgs in both LVP, the Superliga, the Spanish one, and LFL, the French one. There are some orgs that are nobodies in esports, bro. They've got good teams of players in those leagues, but they're not like giant esports orgs. You could definitely, they would almost certainly say yes to a partnership for like G2, put it that way.
I would definitely just seek out a partnership. It's like whether it's like Big. I remember like Big just found players after players. Right. There's LDLC that I don't think are active anymore. Like there was just a bunch of teams that aren't affiliated that did good. I would look out to do that to cut some costs. But then like I read posts by I don't know, like like Sheep Esports made a post about the changes. Like we should, like LTA need to fix this by, they should go from 8 teams to 10 teams to make more teams, and then they should rename back. It's like, well, it's like, well, what is this? This is so surface level and so bullshit, you know? It's not really looking at anything or looking at the details. It's almost like it's like a weird form of virtue signaling always.
By the way, it literally is cargo cult thinking, Yamato. The logic goes, well, back when they were the LCS and there was 10 teams, they sometimes had better results. So if we change the name and bring 2 bad teams in, what do you know? Now we're just awesome. It's like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, what about that would make FlyQuest play better against fucking BLG that we just discussed earlier? How would changing the name to LCS and then bringing in like fucking TSM's bad lineup where people steal all the money? How would that make FlyQuest better? It wouldn't, would it? I know what you mean. It's such a, by the way, listen, I'm not the guy who does the whole thing about like, hey, stay in your lane. But I'll tell you what, Cheap Esports, you're barely doing journalism, bro. I don't know that you're really the people I'm going to for like insightful remarks about how like teams should. How would you even know? You're just a fucking bunch of guys going, maybe this guy's joining SK. Like, I don't know how that would help you know how to practice in the game. It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Well, it's like the weirdest part is like they post articles about the financial and economics of the teams and so forth, and then you just make us like, look, 100 Thieves is a guest team and they want to leave. They're a guest team. Like the rationality and the applicability of your ideas needs to be, scrutinized. Like
I will say. Even though they just think it's because of Wooloo, I do think it's the most appropriately named esports website ever. Sheep Esports. There you go. What do you know? Yeah, a bunch of just fucking bonehead sheep opinions. Yeah, well done. Well done, Sheep Esports. Just a bunch of followers. Just a bunch of motherfucking followers. There you go.
Oh shit, that shit was under our nose the entire time. I can't believe it.
Listen, they didn't label it incorrectly. They didn't call it Genius Esports, did they? It's just Sheep Esports. I know. By the way, do you have much more on this topic? Do you want to go back to talking about MSI? What we're doing?
We can jump back to MSI for sure.
I'll tell you what, though. First things first, though. Speaking of cleaning up how we do things in the West and improving our sort of practice hygiene, what could someone do in real life in that sense, Yamato?
No, you said it, Thorin. It's like first you clean up, but then somehow you got to stay fresh because you go through the tribulations of the day-to-day. Sometimes you just sit on your chair, and sometimes you just sit and you play League and you play PC and you start sweating, you don't notice. Suddenly you get a call, you get called out to that party, but you need to leave now. And then for some reason, you smell on the armpit, you're like, oh damn, I ain't ready. And for some reason, you can't go and you miss out on this opportunity to change your whole damn life. And the issue is you didn't have Mando. Whole body deodorant. I wish I had it growing up. I'm happy I have it now because I am fresh for any occasion. The mailman rings the door when I'm asleep. I open up, boom, I smell fresh. Mount Fuji, baby. I go outside and sometimes, you know, maybe I get lost in the woods and I'm on a 72-hour bender where I'm just, you know, gone, you know, and I'm trying to survive and all these dangers are coming at me. I'll be calm because I know through those 72 hours, I will smell good in every damn location, whether it's the balls, the grundle, the armpits, whatever fold you have in your body.
I like the idea now. I'm imagining Yamato getting like mauled by that bear in the Revenant. The bear's like, "What's up, Bob?" Yeah, I love it. Great, good stuff.
That's what's up. All products, of course, baking soda free, paraben free. You're created by a doctor who just saw firsthand how normal BOs just misdiagnosed and mistreated. Clinically proven to block odor all day and control it for up to 72 hours, which is absolutely nuts. You know, that's a whole ass movie. You know, that's the Hangover right there. And there's a lot of different product options. There's a solid deodorant stick. There's a spray deodorant, and I think if you are not trying it out, at least you are crazy. So, for all the listeners out there, we have a special offer, of course. Mando Starter Pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice. I usually choose the deodorant wipes, and of course, free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. The code is, of course, summoning at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. shopmando.com. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. Use code summoning. Mando's got you covered. Protect your pits and smell great doing it.
There you go. Thank you to everyone who uses Mando, obviously. Right. I actually think we'll just keep going through the tournament because after that, you had the rematch of the LPL finals and upper bracket. It was just anyone's legend against BLG again. Look, for me, I don't think there's that much to say about BLG, Yamato. I think we did a pretty good job on the last episode covering it. Like, they weren't a team that anyone came in hyped around. Like, to me, the actual only angle you could even do was Corpium to believe they'd be good. And I'll tie this to what we'll talk about later with GenG. I actually wrote a Substack piece about this exact topic, which is I do think, much like when you have a Mickey X, the reason why when Mickey X was in G2, I could simultaneously agree with people, oh, he's hinting like a motherfucker, but he's also like a truly generational support that when he like doesn't hint, wins you the whole game. And I know that's really hard for people. So it's like, because they think you have to pick one or the other. Like, oh, so does that mean it's fine for him to win? Like, well, no. But does that mean that we can just kick him and get another good support? Well, no, because he also then not going to have what he brings to the table. So I will say the one Corpium angle for me, GenG didn't need it with Ruler because they would have been good anyway. But Ruler massively turned up for me at this tournament, was looked like shit before. Same with Bin. I thought maybe Bin or Ruler, when you have players like that, you think one of them's going to have a good tournament. You know what I mean? Sadly for BLG, it didn't happen with them. They didn't get it from Bin, really. He actually was fairly underwhelmed the whole tournament. So I can easily put BLG to bed. It's more the anyone's legend side I want to talk about now because, bro, this is why I got so tilted by people doing that thing of like, right, because Shanks is a Chinese mid laner, he basically is cream, and that means that anyone's legend are top esports. It's like, you know, aside from the fact that their Chinese team with a Chinese mid laner, that's it. That's where the similarities end on that one. Because if you even saw how Top Esports ever won, Top Esports did used to win a lot of star power and individual hands and stuff. Anyone's legend won off like amazing fucking structure, jungle support diff, like the fucking way they play the map, the drafting's fucking excellent. They have so many factors that a Top Esports never had in their locker. And I think if you look at this tournament, I think it's actually about exactly where anyone's legend should have been. Bear in mind, T1 sort of overperformed. And by the way, they almost got both GenG and T1. That's real. Like, I actually think the anyone's legend, aside from making the final, I couldn't ask for anything more, mate. I thought they had an excellent tournament. Like, certainly you can look at the individual games, you know, where maybe you wanted more. But I think if you even look at those 5-game series they played, bro, the 2 games they win in each series are legit as fuck. Like, again, another name that's mad maligned, Tarzan. He had some fucking dope games against the best teams in the world. So give me some anyone's legend thoughts. I thought this was kind of a fucking dope team to watch, mate. I enjoyed it.
No, definitely. I think the campaign was a massive success. I think just like the main question marks, right? Even though I thought it was two topics that were a little bit overblown, right? Because I think Tarzan's, like if it was anything coming down to Tarzan's choking, the conversation was always like, Yeah, LNG with Scout and Tarzan and three nobodies, they're just overperforming in regular splits. Like
Yes.
that's what it is. And then it's like they 2023 was the 1 year where LNG looked like legit with Gala and Hang and Zika. And that was like that was of course the massive failure then against the T1, who was the tournament winner in the end. It's just beyond that, it's like his Weibo run at Worlds was decent from Tarzan, his Griffin run was decent. So it's like the conversation of choking was always like, you know, the idea of it being real or not wasn't like super clear as like in some other cases like Labrov, where you just see in every final BO5 it just doesn't exist barely. And then the conversation of Shanks too, it's like top esports. I think the main thing that was different, especially last year, was the top esports still when they played against Bilibili in some of those series to like finish off the finals and so forth. You could see that some elements did look like off, like they couldn't finish the games, they couldn't win the games, regardless of what the position was in. It was watching those series against Bilibili. It was like, yeah, Bilibili is going to just win no matter what. Like I don't feel that presence at all. But anyone's legend, their path to this tournament is like they beat already Bilibili and great teams on a very big stage. It's like managing to do that and being the number 1 seed is already like a very big prize to take, in my opinion, when it comes to like the LPL arena and so forth, and beating Bilibili, who is the champion from the previous year. So coming into the tournament, I thought still, I had concerns about Shanks and Tarzan and AL as a whole, but they dealt with that super well. I think Shanks, easily arguable that he was the best performing mid laner. Like looking at how he played in the matchups,
he was mega.
He played insane against Chovy, played insane against Faker, didn't win, but still I think he was the better mid laner in both of those series.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair.
I think Tarzan as well. It's so obvious how much the team relies on Tarzan, because the wins, it's like, holy, Tarzan is just he's doing the inspired thing, but on a better team with this roster pretty much. And I think those two guys really impressed. I think Flandre, it was always like he's a role player, but and he's so damn good at that role. But whenever it expanded beyond that, where it was like playing the carries, maybe like the Ambessa, Camille, this is where he kind of fell short. But this is just Flandre as a player at this point in time. I think Hope was also super good. I think I'm happy that people get to see this side of Hope, because internationally people remember him as the guy who got smoked by Lushanami of Gumayushi and Keria back in 2022, or the guy who got replaced by Viper and Ruler. So this was like also a really good performance. Kael, I think, if anyone, I think he set a very high bar for himself in the LPL. And in the end, he played against players that had an insane tournament. So I can't really fault him for that either. It's like he played against Keria, and he played against Duro, who had like a tournament of a lifetime.
Sure. No, both mega,
so it's like, I'm happy with how AL landed. I'm very happy.
No, I'm with you, because I actually do think if you watch this tournament, this is what people hoped top esports would be like. They just never ever were. I mean, this is such a fact. If you look at the fact that like domestically they've been elite the whole year, then now they've come to this international tournament. They've given a really good show for themselves. Like I said, they are. By the way, they absolutely could have beaten every team in this tournament they played. Like it was right there on paper. I even do think that the GenG series probably underrated actually how close that one was. They could have 3-0'd that one from what I remember. So I think if you look at it, they're tracking perfectly for a team that has, like, Shanks is an international rookie. Tarzan's gotten over the choking issue. Like, that's not an issue. By the way, spoiler, that's how you know he didn't choke Yamato. You didn't see anyone say shit about Tarzan in this tournament. They'd have been, just like Chovy, which we'll get to later, they'd have been all up this guy's arse if he'd choked these games. He didn't. Like I said, the games they won, he looked awesome in. He had some fucking mega performances. He still has the best jungle set. He's even better than Canyon on it, for fuck's sake. And beyond Canyon, this is the next best jungler in the tournament, man. This guy's fucking amazing. So, no, the key thing for me with anyone's legend is this. They should still be, as of right now, the best team in the LPL. So I expect to see them at Worlds. And based on what they've done in this tournament, I mean, look, we've got EWC happening tomorrow anyway, so we'll also get a little bit of a preview. But this team should be like a dark horse to win Worlds, mate. Yeah, they shouldn't probably be a favourite. I don't care if they're in the LPL. Like, I've got to see you actually, FlyQuest, you actually got to win the game before I can really believe it's possible. But if you look at like the makeup of their squad, Mate, if you want to tell me coming into Worlds, this would be like the third or fourth most likely to win, I think that's totally plausible. And by the way, what an awesome position to be in. That means everyone's doing their job. That means the team's done a great job scouting, the coaches do. So I think actually, again, this is one of the few teams I wouldn't overrate them. I would give them like a fucking A-. Just really great tournament. Could be better, a little bit of room for improvement, but bearing in mind expectations, excellent performance from anyone legend.
I think in a world where I think everyone just viewed LPL through the lens, like people, definitely the guys who just don't watch LPL, who watch it through the lens of how strong Billy and like how top esports was his first stand. I think anyone's legend is very important for the region, especially this year because of how strong Korea is, with how their offseason went, with how GenG and how Alive are built, and now Doran actually performing on the T1 rosters. Like beating Korea this year will probably be harder than ever, looking at the field of teams. So anyone's legend being in the mix and being like great is a really good thing, because the other LPL teams are going through some rebuilds. I don't know if you've heard some of the off-season shit, but it's like Wei is going to IG as a six-man. Okay. Chris went back and swapped supports with Weibo Gaming. Yeah. Like, and there's some rebuilding going on. I don't know if Billy is going to get another jungler.
Coaching JDG, there's some magic in that, I know. Well, here's the thing though, we'll save that for a future episode, because we'll do like some LPL talk on each one. Tell you what we need to do now, right? There is only 2 matches left. It was the upper bracket final and the final. They're both 5 gamers. It was obviously GenG T1. It was actually, the joke is, the LCK final we never got. We got it twice, and both went to 5 games. So here's the thing. Is your memory good enough to talk about the 2 series separately? Do you think you can do it?
Yeah.
Right, well, let's do the upper final first. I actually think, by the way, of the 2 series, I actually think the upper final was the better one. It reminded me of when you had a few years back, that one in 2023 with JDG and T1, where it was a 5-gamer in the upper bracket too. That was a banger series, if you remember. I thought this was an excellent series. So I actually do think this one was also a lot more interesting to me, because if you watch this series, like, there's so much from both teams. Like, first of all, everyone obviously expected GenG to win. Like, just the fact that T1's constantly like, you know what's interesting, Yamato? There's a concept me and Monty used to always discuss in the LCK, and it went like this. It never has mattered somehow which team out of T1 and KT is good in the LCK. When they meet and you get that, like, it's the telecom war, it's like the match exists outside of time. It's like you're on some Doctor Strange shit. You go into another dimension where time isn't real, and you're just eternally KT and T1, and it's always some crazy battle where you're like locked in some eternal like stalemate that's barely won. It doesn't matter whether KT shit, whether T1 was actually, there was even times, remember, the KT super team, when sometimes T1 was the team that was on the downhill, you know. Somehow that, it's the same thing in this match, because if you watch domestically, GenG's way better than T1. In fact, T1, it's debatable if they're even the second best Korean team before this tournament. But T1 does have a gloat factor. Well, don't worry, we'll get later to how overplayed that narrative was, sadly. But they do have one. They clearly have something where it's like they don't choke internationally, key. But then also, GenG, if they play them internationally, they are a little bit more nervy. Their difference is they can clap you. They could 3-0 T1 if it was LCK. Internationally, though, you do see those games where, like, especially, no, it's early in series, they often drop a game super early. They get blown out. Like you have in this first series, by the way, as soon as you have that Gumayushi fucking Lucia game or whatever, it's like, okay, all right, well, this is a different world this isn't the LCK now. So what did you think of this first series?
The opening game, GenG just showed the opening game for me kind of put a frame on what the how I categorize both teams. Because I did think T1 collectively get better. Macro-wise, they are on the same page, just a little bit sharper. But individually, GenG are just too damn good. Whether it's like wave control in terms of how they fight, how they mechanically like express themselves through the game is just too overpowered. Because in that game one, T1 managed to funnel a lot of gold into Azir. And then they got tier 1 top, tier 1 bot. Azir was like ahead of the curve, and it's like, oh, they're doing a good job here of understanding the condition of the game. And then there was that one situation where they caught Azir on bot, where like the frame window of you killing this Azir or not requires everyone to just mechanically play perfect, and then the game just explodes off of that. And I think that just kind of cemented what the whole series, like how I categorize both teams. I did think in the first series, what was strange about GenG, it's almost like they played, which they got away with regionally too, because it's like they had to reverse with Hano Alive and so forth. But that second game where they're like posturing for fights 4v5, like those were some of the worst Chovy games where like he played Rise, just got EQ'd by Javan, very dry, losing Flash and so forth. And there was this kind of approach that GenG had that just seemed so arrogant almost. And then you could see them tighten up like real time. It's like, oh, we're going to play a classic GenG game. Look, Kesante, pick the tanks. And they have that in them to just phase shift between styles, which I think is so important in a fearless draft, because you need to be able to play all the styles. And it's so clear that GenG is capable of like locking into a game identity and also, you know, putting all their eggs into one specific basket and trusting, oh, that basket is Ruler. That's a nice fucking basket. That's Chovy. That's Keen. That's Canyon. Oh, these are all nice baskets. I can put all my eggs here. I don't mind either basket it is. And I think in the end, like that final game, as like everyone wanted to criticize Doran for that, but like in my mind, what Doran did this series to even put T1 in a game 5, and even in that game 2, like that game 5, the advantages they got was due to Doran. Like he got a massive swap in, he got the cancellation onto Jinx. Jinx economy was completely destroyed. Ambessa was laning into Jinx, and they had to lane 2v2 into topside, and Ambessa was isolated against the Jinx. And then eventually he ulted into the enemy team, but you can also look at what Owner did, where he mechanically misplayed, didn't kick Renekton into the tower, which should be an expectation from him, or like the fact that, Silas decided to commit into TP into the bot wave rather than committing to the engage on mid wave. You know, there's a lot of details to bring down, and I was disappointed that the discourse was around, oh, Doran's just throwing the game for T1 because he's scapegoated, but in reality, this series, I think he was the better player over Keen. Because, for example, that game where Keen played Poppy, that was a very poor game from Keen. He threw that game. That should have been a GenG win when Chovy got the catch on mid on Owner, and then Poppy just, like with the Poppy, it cuts through, gives Nocturne an out. And Keen didn't have like the best series by his stand. It was a good series, but not a great series, because that series, I think Doran was great. But everyone just remembers how the series ended. But I think that game 5 job was ass.
Bro, here's the bummer for me is I did say once the final was over, just to fuck with T1 fans, but it's also true. Like, if they had Zeus, they'd probably win this tournament, because I've said that the whole year. But I'm also saying that mainly to fuck with T1 fans. I don't flame Doran for this tournament, mate. Yes, if you go and look, sadly, especially in game 5s, he had some dodgy performances where he did like some ints, or he just fucked up a team fight. But I'm with you. If you go and look at the rest of the series in games that T1's winning, bro, he actually had some very good top lane play in this tournament. By the way, he did some awesome, like, fucking, like, dive on the back line shit. Like, he did some pretty legit stuff. He also had some great skirmishes where he's the person hunting people down and catching them. And no, I actually thought, if anything, by the way, he also played with like a confidence. I don't think I've seen him play with internationally. Like, I am one of those people who thinks domestically, he actually had a bit of Tarzan himself. Domestically, he'd always be good. And then internationally, you just knew he was going to fuck it up eventually. But the difference is, yeah, he might have had like 1 or 2 moments he fucked up. I actually think generally probably underrated as a player. Like, I do think he did his job in this team to get them to potentially winning. And then also, I mean, we could also bundle this, to be fair, when we talk about the final, because the guy did it fucking twice, didn't he? Let me just double check. Did he actually do it the second time? Wait there 1 second. Yeah, basically, here's the thing. If I already didn't have a crazy fucking crush on Canyon, bro, his go-to game 5 picks are Nidalee jungles. And by the way, I actually saw people complaining about this in a way that's so fucking noob. Like, this is where I know you're just people who play the game in solo queue. You don't get the team game. Because people kept pointing out that in some of the, like, Nidalee picks he does, which, by the way, think how many times now in his career he's Nidalee picked for game 5. Like, if you don't know, guys, you normally do that and shit your pants in game 2 and then go, fuck, I'll stay away from that if it fails. He's doing it on his clutch games. And this is why it's actually OP. Because 1, that's always going to be there in the draft. They're not going to fucking ban Nidalee game 5 of Fearless, bro. So it's always going to be there if you want it. 2, as far as I can tell, he can just play it against any comp, with any comp, and against any jungle matchup, Yamato. Like, this is why this guy is the GOAT. This one pick shows you it. And then secondly, even in games where he doesn't actually get to, like, do, like, a gank based on the early... Bro, his clear speed is, like, cheating. This is fucking unfair. Like, it means if you're his solo laners, if you're Keen and Chovy, by the way, potentially the best in the world at your role, you just start every game 5 knowing where the enemy jungle jungler is. Like, that's the dream right there, bro. That's how you get through lane. Like, in a weird way, it's what you're not seeing happening, guys. That's OP as fuck. You're not having to have these massive, like, ganks early that you don't know come in or someone sneak past or what. I think, bro, this guy is so cracked, Canyon. This is why I do feel like I already had them as the winner of the tournament anyway. But if it's going to be a jungle stack tournament, let's just have the best jungler ever, like, in his prime now, because this guy's fucking too good, mate. He's too good.
Canyon had some crazy highlight reels in this one. Like that Skana game was crazy what he was doing in that play on the top blue. It's like that first game 5 that he played with the Nidalee. It's so sad because that invade that he did on red, if he just chose to push her, like he's basically like moving away from the red and he's doing something that is natural in the clear, but he moved away into where Lee Sin can come from. And the only way for him to die is for him to get queued the way he did. That's the only way, because in a different world, he kites away, the Q lands on the red, and then he has a smite fight, gets level 3, levels W, and can jump and play and actually like do something, because you use the red to block the Q. But he gets hit by the Q because his timing is just a little bit off. And in a different world, that game just evolves very differently. And obviously with Nidalee, if you get behind and you have Jinx, Tam and bot, and the enemy team is pressuring with Pyke, you don't have a lot of options. But obviously the second game 5 Nidalee that he played was a lot cleaner, because that time around they got the Lee Sin ban on red, and then they just slammed Nidalee 1-2. The enemy took Renekton away, so they didn't have that. But Aatrox, that's Renekton's weird cousin. It's basically the same shit for Keen, so...
I have to say, if we're going to, let's transition and talk about the other final too. Like the player, like I referenced earlier, who did just go, oh, what's that? My alarm's going off. Oh, it's already fucking middle of 2025. I better be a great player again. Was just Ruler. Like, mate, does this guy not get the memo that he's been whacked for like a year and a half? Like, you would never believe it. You would think he popped out of a time machine from 2023 JDG, mate. Like, he was even playing all the champions. He was on the Jinx. He was on the fucking, the Jin. He was on everything you'd want him to be good on. He was fucking dope on. It's like, this is like a flashback tournament for me, mate.
Oh, Ruler was amazing. Like simply, like the amount of mistakes that happened were like just non-existent. Like it was just insanely clean. There was always like this. The main issue always, especially in the regular split this time around, was that he just got caught on mid-wave, lost sums for no reason, and just kind of got away with it because he's surrounded by these teammates. Last year, I think JDG, like I give him grace there because what Missing was doing and Yagao was on the exit. It's like his teammates and the whole top lane situation, trading Flandre and Sheer, like that was just a mess. Because even at the end of that year, it was so clear that Ruler wanted to qualify to Worlds and he was trying to drag his teammates over the finish line, but just couldn't do it. But I never expected him to just go back to drop like a GOAT performance like this. Like, this was insanity. Like his Jinx game was so much harder to play because everyone. I made the tier list and I put Ruler first, and it's like, oh, Gumayushi got 15 kills. It's like the difficulty of games really, really matters. It's like he's playing Jinx against Draven Pyke, and he's under threat the whole damn game because his team fell behind and it's out of his hand. Somehow remains even, remains consistent, finds the gold necessary in the in-between there. Just because it didn't happen, people don't recognize it, but there are so many ways for him to just die when he loses the mid turret. There's so many ways for him to get collapsed on, lose summoners, and then just be on the back foot for the whole game. But he found his timings to farm, found his timings to posture, found his timings to generate gold. And then when the enemy team was ready to take a bad fight, he just capitalized on it and played so clean. Like even that final Nexus push.
Oh, it was beautiful, wasn't it? The cover kiting.
It was
magnificent. The joke is, those are those moments, Yamato, you watch and then you go, I should play some ADC. Let's fire the game up. Then 5 minutes in, you're like, actually, you're just a god. I quit the game. This is fucking trash. You're just too good at League of Legends. No, it was like prime Ruler, wasn't it? Just some peak Ruler winning world shit, Still good,
definitely.
mate. Still good.
That's too good.
Oh, and also, here's an angle I want to spin to, though, which is, look, we will definitely do plenty of T1 glazing because they actually had a mega globe this tournament. We can do it in a minute. But I want to keep it on GenG for a second because, bro, This is the craziest shit of all. I do have a problem with this. I don't know how much they discussed this on Power Spike and the other shows on our network. So as far as I know, this might be the first place we're having this discussion. I'm not sure. But mate, I like a lot of the people on the analyst desk and on the broadcast on the English language. A lot of them I actually do think are some of the best people in esports. I think even in league, a lot of them are very knowledgeable, etc. Although I will say I would have rather there was more like LCK and LPL people at this tournament. I do think that showed in the final, for example. But bro, I'm just going to do this. As someone who's worked a lot of analyst desk events in my career, and I consider myself the esports historian, I think this final will age so poorly when people go back and rewatch these segments. Because bro, these segments make it sound like this is Worlds and T1 just always wins. Like, that's not even the way MSI's ever been in double limb. I think I've pointed this out to people before. T1's never won a double limb competition with this core, by the way. As soon as LTK went to double limb, they've never won since then. Like, go look it up. There's a fact. They won when it used to be the single limb and it used to spawn straight in the semis and pick the selection, etc. Right? They've never won an MSI. They've only been in one of the finals even. Like, you have to go back to when it was single limb. They were in the finals and they were winning it back in 2017. So first of all, everyone talked like what they did at Yamato is they took the concept of Worlds is international play and they conflated all the storylines. And the reason why it was whack is it didn't work for either team. So on the one hand, Yamato, you had it framed that like T1 always pull it out in the clutch and they're just sort of like winners who just do it anyway. Yeah, but they not only haven't done that at MSI, they didn't do that here. That's Worlds. Then on the other side, you know what? GenG, bit kind of chokers. That Chovy, bit of a choker. He's the MSI champion already. He won it last year without losing the series. He won it this year without losing the series. Like, you got the narratives ass backwards. And the reason why it blows is this, Yamato, because that Game 5 narrative was completely scoffed. Like, they made it seem like, actually, like, GenG was going to choke and T1 were going to clutch it out. The opposite happened. Like, Faker did fucking... If Chovy played the way Faker did in Game 5, he would never be allowed to live it down, Yamato. Everyone would say that's why you're a choker, and that's why... And if... Are you ready? And if Faker had played the Aurora like Chovy did, they'd go, that's why he's the GOAT. Look how clutch he is under pressure. Because, by the way, just like the Nidalee picks, you also had these Aurora picks in Game 5 in both these series. And, mate, that last one in that last game, that was a peach right there. Like, if you're someone who's a hater of Chovy, you must have just been fucking silent for an hour after that, mate. He literally did everything you told me Faker would do to him. Meanwhile, bro, half of this cast for real was people just like, this is the craziest fanboying I've ever seen on broadcast. They were talking like Faker could just go in and do 17 charms in a row and just win the fight by himself. Like, dude, he couldn't even do anything in that last game. He was just stuck trying to get one charm in and then not able to do anything after that. Like, I thought, I want it, without going into the split, I want this bigger picture now. What do you think of this angle, Yamato? Again, I don't know if you would not listen to the stream or what, but they were billing it like, T1 again, I guess they're going to win it, and then they'll make it sound like GenG was like fucking up. Whereas I thought that Game 5 was like, that's even a fucking insane draft to win against if you're GenG. You have all these really hard to pilot champions like Nidalee, like Aurora. That's a fucking masterclass to win that game where you're even behind at times. Like, I thought this was, if you build it properly, this was a mega story for GenG, but it was kind of framed like I'm saying on the broadcast, like T1 was going to win it or something.
Yeah, for me, the strangest thing is the narrative that T1 have a monopoly on being clutch.
Yes.
It's like, bro, it's Canyon, it's Ruler, like these
guys are pretty good. Even Kane was pretty dope in some of the games, yeah.
These are very clutch players. Like, historically, they have really stepped up to the plate in moments that matter. It's like everything is so short-term driven most of the time. And it's like sometimes I see that the broadcast is trying to have some balance where they like put the stats, Knight versus Faker. This is the matchup head-to-head. There's 12 wins here, 12 wins here. This is what happened at MSI. But then it's like after that, I'm dealing more with the narrative of what happens in the community, because it's like for me, this is the biggest pet peeve of mine when something is like framed wrong, because everyone's like, haha, Yamato, they lost again. You see, T1 never loses against LPL. It's like, why are we saying this? It's just not true. I hate it. I hate it so much when people spread lies. I could see that, like, I remember the segment as well. It was like Chovy versus Faker. They're head to head. They also showcased that. I did think there were moments where they tried to highlight, the domestic success of Chovy and how dominant he's been against Faker and T1 regionally. So I definitely saw glimpses of that. But I think for the majority of things, I do like space out whether it's the cast or so forth. So I will trust your read on this one.
You know what I mean, though, the Chovy one? Like, if you're someone, and by the way, I'm one of these people, if you're someone who's waited every Worlds and every international tournament, like, right, I want to see this guy do the shit he does in the LCK. He didn't even do it for most of this tournament. Like, by the way, that's actually even slightly scary, I've got to say, if you're not a GenG fan. Chovy didn't even have to be the best player, and he still fucking won every series. But, mate, the way he played in that Game 5, this is why a lot of us changed our perspective on him last year in that spring finals of LCK when he did all those amazing plays on his ear, etc. Like, this guy's just unlocked the final gear. He actually has his own clutch factor now. Like he's done it all year anyway with these like mega plays in Game 5s anyway. But like, I thought his Aurora play in this final game, it was ballsy as fuck. Like I say, if you change the nameplates, this would be like, oh, classic faker, always comes out of clutch. Oh, I guess the other guy just didn't have the balls to go. No, that was Chovy, bro. That was Chovy. That was the real Chovy.
Was a crazy Aurora game for me. Like that game, even though Ruler had one of the best MF performances I've ever seen, like he broke the whole game open with a top dive, and how he fought is like at the end of the game, I think he had like 15k damage over anyone in that game, which is crazy to even think about.
I think he was going to lose a bunch of times. A bunch of these fights, you think they're going to lose, mate? Yeah.
It was such a good performance from Chovy. That's also something that is worth addressing, because it's like Chovy had a bad tournament by his standard, not by anybody else's standard.
Oh no!
And then everyone, the fan base of like the crazy fan base, the crazy part of the T1 fan base, they really despise Chovy, because Chovy is always raised by analysts as the guy who's the best player in the world at many moments in time, like over the last years, because naturally we watch the game. So it's like anytime Chovy has a bad game by his standard, there's like, oh, look at Chovy, he's choking, whatever. And it's like, no. His, like, as you mentioned yourself, you know, you made this take on Twitter. It's so true. It's like his B game is some of the best games of some of these mid laners. It's like even when he had a middling performance, he was still the third best performing mid laner after Shanks and Honkyu, because they just had the craziest performance of their lifetime. But then Chovy just kicked it into gear when it mattered most. And then the next thing I wanted to address was, like, people looked at that game, and the main issue in that game is that Caedrel and Karma didn't manage their wave in a way that didn't make them get dove. And then they were completely useless in that game. And somehow people look at that game because Thorin is flash snap engaging, because they need to get a reset. They need to get a reset for Ari and Viego to actually win the game. But nobody's looking at like what this Caedrel is doing the whole game. Like, this Caedrel is so damn useless. But now Gumayushi is just a protected class, you know. He's just a protected class. You can't.
And aside from like Game 5, he was playing awesome in the tournament. He was having some really great globe games where he's looking like all his classic jinxes, Zayas. He gave him all these picks, But I'm with you. In Game 5, he fucking sold it, mate. He did nothing.
Definitely.
It's himself for him to win.
And that top dive is like they froze the wave when they need to keep momentum and play around the Viego timers, and then the Pyke MF got to crash a wave into you, and you got dove, and the whole game just exploded. And that's just something that you can't get away with in a Game 5. But the nuance of that is going to be different, because people are going to look at Dora and trying to flash engage because they're getting poked out by the fucking Italy. Like they can't stand there and do nothing. They need to get a reset. And T1 understood, the memo. They need to like get this fight started and get the Ari charm into Viego reset and try to win. And somehow Doran gets the blame. Like I despise that.
How big are the balls on this Doro guy? Pyke, Game 5 for all the marbles in the final. Like, bro, there's no bracket reset, you know? Like, this guy's got... This is why it's kind of cool, Yamato. I hyped it at the beginning of the year. Look, no one could know how the Doro guy would play. This is better than anyone could have hoped for. Like, he already looks really fucking good. Like, and then you look at the rest of the squad. Like, this is them, like... Every person in GenG had series, they were the best player almost. It was fucking sick. Like... That was dope. Even that, by the way, even that one game they had in the final, which one was it here? Even the one they had, that was they actually did win it. The one where they played Rise and Scion, and you had that weird play where Chovy went in on his own. If you ever go back and watch that, it's because the fucking Scion, which was like unkillable, like steps off the Realm Walk at the last second, like you just miss. That was supposed to actually be, by the way, another aggressive play to like win the fucking game and smash. Like, mate, GenG came in with a different mentality in this one. Let's do some T1 talk, because you did a bit on Dorn there. Like, the real problem here is, like, I'll tell you where we'll start the discussion. Right? I do believe in general in esports, you should talk about 5-man lineups. Like, I do think even changing one player can sometimes be incredibly drastic as to what it does. I mean, a classic example would be just consider when they changed out perks for Reckless. In theory, Reckless was as good or better in ADC, but the whole team was worse as a team for other factors, right? But I do also think when you talk about the idea of a core, like 3 players, for example, who've been there a whole bunch of times, you can see certain things play out. Like, this isn't just about Thorin and Zeus. Like, even with Thorin in, this team still does have a clutch factor, bro. Like, they do have, like, intangible aspects where somehow they perform in the moment where you're not expecting them to, or they bounce back with an interesting draft. By the way, they still do a lot of that shit too, which is they still do some very interesting drafting work. Funny thing is, I actually even think that's probably an underrated part of this tournament. Bro, think of this tournament. They might actually have had the best drafting of any of the coaches. Like, they got into a lot of good Game 5 drafts, a lot of, like, late games that looked good. They are just sometimes players fucked it up. Like, what did you think in general about T1? I was kind of like pleasantly surprised. Like, this is almost like the best moments of the LCK all came out internationally.
No, I think that the big contrasting difference for me with the Doran version and the Zeus version is that Doran is a lot more incorporated in the game at every point in time. Zeus always played in isolation, and then he showed up on Drakes with 2 items, 3 items, and just found crazy flanks and engages and pressured the enemy beyond belief. And the goal was, can Zeus farm? And can we pressure enough on the other side of the map so they don't have time to pressure him? Because if not, he will get ganked and he will die. That's basically how T1 played with his counter picks. He was very, very isolated. With Doran, there's a lot of synergy between him and Owner. In the early games, they get ahead, they find dives, they find pressure angles, which is super cool to see. And Doran finds these ROM timers into Drake when he's 6, whether it's with Ornn or Renekton. He hovers on like through and through. And T1 is playing as a collective more than ever, because the Zeus variant was always, they are mechanically insane and then they're going to clutch it out in the team fights. And Owner would play in isolation. Keria would have to put wards on his on his lonesome, and then Faker and Zeus would just try to like survive on side pretty much. And then if you got to 20 minutes, you just knew that T1 was just better on the objective. But this team plays collectively so different, and I think the incorporation of Doran has been so neatly done. I just want to give praise to what I assume the coaching staff is like. The introduction of Mata into here, this is how I always imagine it. It's like the introduction of Mata, we see jungle support synergy, I talked about it a lot here, but also just the overall synergy of the squad in terms of how they move together on the map and get advantages. That is very different from past versions of T1, which I think is super, super cool to see. I think this team lives and dies by Keria, Owner, and Doran, surprisingly, because like Doran actually had some good performances on carry champs, whether it was the Renekton or like Ambessa. Yeah, actually had good performances on carry champs, which I think is very impressive. But I do think that Gumayusi and Faker, I think their performance, it's a little bit too much on the end of if the draft skews towards them, I don't expect them to be able to put out like the game-winning performance in my mind. I think with Faker, he had great Orianna performances, and I think that when he played mages to stabilize the matchup, it was good because he didn't die to every gank then. But I think that Gumayusi's role on this team is more about just being stable, and that's fine sometimes, but then you don't get performances like we got out of Ruler or maybe Hope or even Doggo in terms of like really stepping up to the plate. He had definitely great performances with like Lucian, Xayah for sure, and I think Gumayusi is an impressive ADC, but I do think that T1 still, they don't have that role depth as GenG do. I don't think anyone does. So comparing them to GenG is a tough one. I think T1 is still like what they managed to do from losing to Nong Shim in the regular split and then going into playoffs with that in mind. And then now, taking GenG to game 5 twice, I think is insanely impressive. And they really managed to make the team cohesion stick because they didn't have any. They really didn't have any for the majority of spring. So I'm very impressed with the run, and I think they should be proud and happy, even though I'm sure all they care about is winning. But maybe they sit there and say, actually, this MSI doesn't matter. It's only about Worlds that matters. And they cope themselves like the fans do.
They almost played as well as they could anyway, if you look at how they played this year. Like, I'm with you, by the way. The reason why GenG is so terrifying to me is, bro, this roster does look like it can be better than the one last year that was like doing all undefeated shit, etc. Because if you remember the team last year, it was actually more T1-ish. They had their style of play and no one could figure out how to beat it. So they just kept doing that style. The problem is that never made it to Worlds. By the time they got to Worlds, they just did the usual thing of like, right, fuck, change our whole champion pool and style of play because they'd lost already. I'm with you. This GenG can win in so many different ways in League. It's unfair, mate. And then as we're talking about, this isn't just like it's GenG and Chovy has to be like a 10 out of 10. Mate, he can have a game where he's a 6 out of 10 and they can win because Ruler's there, Keen's there, Canyon's impossibly good. The Duro guy, shouldn't he? He doesn't even have to be good and he is good. Like, this team is crazy stacked. I actually do think, like, I'm mega hyped for the idea this team can win Worlds, GenG. Like, it looks plausible. But then on the T1 side, here's the thing. Obviously, this did happen a little bit last year. They had the EWC win, but then they shit the bed in summer. So somehow they arrived at Worlds, obviously, like, as the 4th seed and all that shit. Like, if you look right now, this is way better than last year's MSI. Remember, last year's MSI was where they almost got rocked by G2 twice. BLG just handled them, and then everything got to play GenG. This one, they not only could have won this thing, as of right now, and I never thought I'd say this about the Thorin lineup at T1, T1 could win Worlds too. For reals, like, if the performance I saw here, mate, they could fuck around and have won this tournament. So, like, it's actually kind of hype for T1 if they're going to go to Worlds after this. Like, obviously, we'll see with EWC and LCK Summer, maybe they fuck it up. But as of right now, you can be pretty hyped that, like, this could be amazingly, actually, the meme is the Dora lineup at T1 could win Worlds too, bro. Maybe it can happen.
Oh, definitely. I think we have seen an evolution in Doran, and I think he's performing super well. And I think that, you know, looking at the change, because I think there was this discussion. I remember, like, when we watched the first GenG How My Life matchup, like this was early in winter in the LCK Cup, and we saw there was this game where they picked like full tank topside and then Jinx on Ruler, and then back then we were saying, oh, this is why they signed Ruler, to add that layer of depth. And for the longest time, I remember there was this discussion about how Ruler was a downgrade from FaZe, but FaZe in a fearless format, when series would go to 5 games, like, this is the moment where you realize this is why we signed Ruler. It's like, yes, you don't need a player that is going to drill and dominate regular split, because that's what FaZe does. Like, he just drops mad volume, but then his final games were always just a little bit disappointing.
He basically did this split. If you didn't watch the LPL guys, he was mega in the whole split, and then the playoffs, he just kind of whatever, wasn't he?
Yeah. It's like, I remember when he got like caught by the scanner and so forth, and I really liked that GenG brought Ruler back, and they saw the value in him, because that's such a crucial thing that like, that people judge players wrong depending on circumstance in a lot of cases. It's like you don't go from being the best player in the world 2023 into being suddenly bad. Like, it's just circumstances really matter, and I'm so happy to see Ruler step up. But on the point of T1 being competitive coming into Worlds, I think that's very real. I think this roster is very good. I think that for Fearless, it's also super good. It's like, now we can tangibly measure teams that are good in Fearless and not in Fearless. I think the metrics are very obvious, and just having depth of play, which is super important. I think what T1 did this competition, I think, was clever, because they really leaned heavy into just picking champions they're comfortable with. I think especially in that game 5, I think everyone, including me, just thought, oh, GenG, what did you just draft here? This on paper looks awful. But they were so damn comfortable. They were so damn comfortable. And in the end, maybe that's the main thing that matters. And I think T1 really leaned into that in this competition with their champion choices, which I think just is super important. And I think coming into the World Championship, like I mentioned it before, like, it's going to be a tough year for the LPL, but simply because LPL is rebuilding a lot of shit at the same time, and also LCK just landed with 3 teams that are just insane. I know everyone might think How a Life is bad now, but trust me, that was one series, and maybe EWC, they will fuck around and win it, maybe. Like, that's entirely possible with How a Life.
Oh, by the way, one last thing on the T1 thing, and then we'll talk about some other stuff, which is let's talk a little bit about Faker, though, because I actually think this one wasn't a really good performance, but also wasn't really bad. It was a mixed bag for me, mate. Like, the real problem is I actually think he's an example of someone where comfort was massive. Like, yeah, you know what? If you put him on the Oriana and he can walk back in and do that sick fucking shockwave, yeah, you can get a playoff. If you give him the right picks, give him an Azir, he has a chance. The problem is, though, like, I do think if you want to ask which is a position that you could have gotten more out of for T1 to win the position, I think mid lane is a fair one to bring up. Like, if Faker had played the way he did at, like, the finals of last Worlds, for example, he could have won this tournament, mate. Like, I do feel like for me, he was a little bit off the pace, which, by the way, he hasn't been the best mid laner in the LCK the whole year long. There've been other people that were better. But I did think this last split, he was getting his shit together a bit more. I think he's had some games domestically where he's looked quite good, even in terms of even the hands. I was a little bit underwhelmed. I actually wanted to see Chovy going off with Faker, doing some super clutch plays. It didn't really happen at the same time for me.
Yeah, I think this was a pretty, let's say, like expected tournament from Faker. I think like the CFO series was very bad from him.
Yeah,
Like that series was close in my opinion because Faker was getting heavily outperformed by Honkyu. In the end, like Keria needed to do magical things for even them to go through the upper bracket, and Doran the same way when he was solo killing Dawn on top side. There were games that were great from Faker, definitely, like his Oriana game against Knight or Oriana game against even Chovy, that they invited as well. Really good games. But I think the lack of flexibility is a danger, especially in a world where there's a lot of great mid laners. Like, I think LCK as well, if you want to be competitive in the LCK, if we look at what LCK Summer will look like, it's like the amount of mid laners that are great there is, it's crazy. Because it's like...
And notice he doesn't have a big champion pool, bro. He's playing all the classic shit you expect, the fucking Victor, the Tilly. It's all the stuff that he has to pick. Like, he doesn't have many picks, it looks like, mate.
Yep. And I think it's tricky, very tricky. Because it's just, in the end, I think the main thing, well, I love this piece that you did a long time ago about how Koma is ruining esports, and
roughly 10 years ago,
the whole Easy Hoon thing.
Yeah.
And I agree with that sentiment fully. But now is the time he needs an Easy Hoon, because
Right.
I think if Faker got to rest and let's say he didn't play the first weeks of a regular split, I think that would have been so fine and better, because it seems like he's just performing much better when he gets time off and time to rest. But I don't know if that's something that he wants to do, because obviously he's a competitor. But the amount of shit he needs to do in his scheduling must be crazy. Because randomly, I was at the T1 office, right? T1 office, I was visiting because I know the GM. He showed me around. And then the only person who was in the office was Faker. And he was sitting in meetings, and he had people around him. He just had to do a bunch of shit perma. This guy's schedule must be an absolute mess. It's the same way Uzi got to rest. I feel like if Faker got to rest, I think we would get so much more out of him in the games that are big, because in the end, those regular split games, like who the fuck cares? Who cares? And I feel like if T1 had the capacity to have another mid laner that would be suitable to just understand his position as the guy that is going to sub in, I think that would still be a very honorable position to be the sixth man of T1 and the guy who, helps Faker, and then to learn from that environment. And I think if they manage to do that, I think it would be so much better for Faker.
And you could just do it classic T1 style. Get the guy who's like an aggressive carry mid laner who plays the fucking super hyphy picks that Faker doesn't play, and let Faker be the mage player and the one who's playing the fucking control style and playing for the rest of the map. You can even do that classic sub in and out where it's like usually it classically was top lane and jungle famously he did this from, but obviously they were even doing it with Smash and Gumayushi this year with what they were bringing in and out. No, I'm with you. Thing is though, normally Faker internationally, money in the bank in it. Great under pressure. Well, I hope you're great under pressure and you've got money in the bank when it comes to your wallet situation. This is a Ridge wallet. Now, I will say one of the best things about the Ridge wallet, in my opinion, is one thing I've started to look for in life. And if you've got anyone in your life, when people say that thing like, what do you buy someone as a gift? What do you know what to buy? The best thing you can actually buy, I think it's OP, is things like this and that frame we have, etc. Because these are things the person might not think themselves to upgrade. And I actually do think these are like small quality of life upgrades that, because think about like a wallet. You use a wallet every day of your life. Like, you put it in your pocket every day. You go out, do I have it on me, etc. So, like, these are the things. You might not think it does much to upgrade your wallet, but that might be a tiny, like, 5 to 10% upgrade every day you're using it. Like, one thing I think is awesome about this is it's so small. I'm used to a wallet being massive, being something that's giant in my pocket, which means, by the way, I don't know about you, I'm one of those people, I don't like to feel anything uncomfortable. So if I was ever on like a plane or in a car, I always take everything out of my pocket and put it in like my coat pocket and button that up, or put it in a backpack, or put it in that little tray where you can put all the stuff in your car. Because I hate that feeling of having like stuffed pockets when you sat down and the trousers are all tight around. You don't get that. This is so small and light. It's awesome. It can fit up to 12 cards because it stretches. So by the way, the beauty of the stretch buys, if you only had like 4 cards, that's fine. But if you had the full 12, it can go out like that, but still not going to be massive. You can put like a money clip on the back if you want to put coins in there. I've just got a normal band. You can also put like a clip to go on your like belt buckle or in your trousers if you want an easy way to hold it and you don't even want it in your pocket. It's got like loads of designs. I just picked a normal one, but you've probably seen the other hosts of the shows. A lot of them picked like metallic looking designs or cool reflective surfaces. There you go. Like, that's quite a good one. Obviously they're made out of like aluminium, titanium, carbon fiber, all different types. They have a lifetime warranty. That's how confident they are in this product. They even say this is literally the last wallet you'll ever have to buy. And also they have RFID blocking technology in case people try to digitally pickpocket you, which I still don't really understand, but I do believe it's a thing. And so, yeah, you can add in extras like air tags if you want, so you don't lose your wallet and you can track where it is and all that jazz. And also, by the way, they have loads more stuff than just wallets. They have the key case, like I said, fix up to 6 keys, doesn't jangle. That's really awesome. They have suitcases, they have rings, believe it or not. They have so many different things. And it's all the Ridge style, which is like sleek, cool looking design that looks professional, doesn't look like some little kid shit. So I think it's awesome. They also have free shipping, a 99-day risk-free trial, and as I say, a lifetime warranty on their product. So for a limited time, our listeners of the show can get 10% off at Ridge using the code ridge.com/SI at checkout. Just head to ridge.com and use the code SI. Simple to remember, and you're all set. After you purchase, if they ask you where you heard of them, please say Last Three Nation or Summoning Insight, and the message will get through to them. So shout out to everyone who buys a Ridge wallet. There you go. Lovely stuff. Right. What I think we do now is this. The beauty of it is, Yamato, we can just reboot the whole conversation. All those fucking teams are playing at EWC. But I'll tell you where we'll start. You hinted at it earlier. I'm not actually that hyped about EWC in general, right? Because just like last year's, the format's way worse. Like, if people don't know, this one has a plane with BO1s. So if anything, look, you're going to have upset potential because maybe Life can even lose those in the football. But then the normal tournament's BO3 single limit. It's only the finals are BO5. So I will say, if you just came from MSI and you were like, holy fuck, all these game fight, there's only going to be one BO5 in this one. But that obviously does mean there's probably crazier upset potential. Or like, by the way, I'm already imagining the teams like, this is where, by the way, if you're the CFOs of the world, bro, you can do work at this tournament, homie. I've just seen, if you're anyone's legend, maybe you can fuck around and like be in the final or something. But you hinted at it earlier. The real hype angle is you get to see the first stand champions. Hanwha Life is going to be there because there's an extra spot for Korea because T1 won last year's. Bro, that's what I'm hyped for because I'm with you. I think if you look at this tournament, the format means there's a lot of upset potential even for the top teams. But if I look at someone like Hanwha, bro, with the exception of if they play GenG in the final, and even then I saw them almost win a best of 5, I think they could beat anyone. Like, this is really exciting. I'm really hyped to watch Hanwha Life. What do you think?
No, same. I think like the tournament fatigue is also so real. Especially for a team like GenG T1, they practically needed to fly out to Saudi Arabia the next day.
Yeah. Oh, imagine being if you just watched all those games and you're nice and fresh. Like, look me up there. Put me in the game. I know what you mean. Yeah.
And,
they'll be
I'm
knackered.
sure,
They'll be jet lagged as fuck. They came from Vancouver on the west coast of Canada, guys, to Saudi Arabia. Like, that's a fucking crazy time shift. That's nuts.
Oh, it's going to be a mess just by that virtue. It's like logistically, this tournament is a nightmare. Last year it was nightmarish. This is even worse logistically. So we're going to have some heavy underperformers. This is a tournament that is ripe for success for many teams. Like a C9 could also maybe come in here and perform because I don't know how it feels like a team like G2 or Koi that just gets smacked around at MSI and then they need to prep for another competition. I don't know how that feels. Maybe it's a good thing, Sometimes after you lose competition, you feel like empty because you have nothing to pursue. Maybe having a competition so tight next to it, maybe it's the best thing possible for your motivation, but there's so many things that are going to be tough to measure. But on the topic of how life, like this is your tournament. It's like you practice over in Korea. A lot of Korean teams you could scrim against, KT, Damwon. You had teams to practice against. You could prep, no worries. And this is your time to showcase that you got 3-0, then you mentally boomed, but now's the time to bounce back. I think how life can do it. One crucial detail I think that was better this year than the last year is that last year they had these forced NA versus EU matchups in the first round, and that made seeding so awful. At least now in the first round of the bracket, you have all LPL teams, all LCK teams like just standing, watching guard. The 1-2, the 1-2, and then whoever qualifies is going to play a tough opponent at the same time, because I don't really care about Team Liquid making semis when GenG didn't, because they lost against top esports. That was a mess.
I tell you one thing that's an appropriate moment to bring in this conversation from MSI, because we're talking about Hanwha Life. Think about in winter, Hanwha Life's whole shit was, we just win game 5s, bro. Get to the game 5, at that point the draft explodes anyway, and then we just managed to clutch it out. Because, mate, that's another thing. We could have talked about it with GenG, but let's just do it now. Even though there were a million game 5s in this MSI, you'll have seen the same graphic I did, where people did the one when they took all the script. These are the most one-sided games you have ever seen, bro. Like, these are ones where people for real are winning like 20 kills to 5 and like just leading from minute 1 of the game till the end. Like, that's obviously, look, when it happens that many times, it's either the most unlucky tournament ever, or that's a flaw somehow a fearless draft Yamato. And even though people in general enjoy silver scrapes, so they're like getting to a game 5. And by the way, you go look at these series like the Gen GT ones, the first 4 games are some amazing games, some great back and forth, some interesting draft. The problem I have is this. I do think, I give massive props there to GenG for winning from behind in these game 5s and with some dodgy looking drafts. But I also look in general at every team, the good, the bad, and the ugly of the tournament. It doesn't feel like anyone really can play game 5s. Like, it feels like you are like, notice the things we were even saying. You don't even really try to win the draft. It feels like in game 5, it's maybe even a better strategy to just pick something you like to play and have really good, like you're really strong on that champion, so you can just play in any scenario. Maybe you can play a matchup you're not used to or something. Like, we're almost on some Adam shit here, mate. Because there was something really weird about like, there wasn't any real game 5 classics. Do you know what I mean? There wasn't any that I'll look back on and fondly remember. What normally it's the other way around, Jamal. Normally in a 5-game series, the first 4 games might be shit, but just the 5th game was the banger, and everyone remembers that. And they think so. What do you think's causing this phenomenon? Is it a fearless draft issue? What's the problem? Do you think?
I think it's a mix of a lot of things. I don't think fearless definitely contributes, because most teams are just running on Steam in the end. Like, if someone's going to tell me that a zillion lock-in would happen in a game 5, without fearless, then, you are smoking crack or something. I think definitely teams run on fumes in the end. And I think an additional layer of it that really exacerbates the issue is the side selection portion. Because I think it's very easy to recognize which side will be skewed more heavy towards just being better. The series where you see like the Varos being traded, Aussie being traded, Talia being traded, and a lot of the first picks are just disappearing from the draft early in the BO5, then red side can be stronger. But if all of those things are open coming into a game 5, then blue side is so much more flexible, because that FlyQuest game, people might isolate the Zillion as a problem, because it was a big problem, but also the fact that the Galio first pick was so damn powerful that the answer was so unclear. There was no AD mid options. Galio was also the answer into the Rumble, so they locked out the Rumble, and then the enemy could get Rumble and Galio in a 1-2-3 with no answers into Galio, because all the mages were just out of the pool already. Like, I think coming into that game 5, they just need to implement, like, the fact that a team wins a coin toss and has 3 side selects in a BO5 series. I think this is a massive problem.
That is wild, isn't it?
I really, really hate that aspect. It's very imbalanced, and I think they just need to do what the LPL does. Just a 1v1. I would be so hyped to see a 1v1 coming into a game 5. Like, imagine you just get Chovy versus Faker or something like as a 1v1. Oh. That's as a pretext for the match. That would be insane. I really think we need that, because I think it would happen rarely, and if it does, we already know it's going to be a great moment, because it's a damn game 5 in a series that is hopefully very competitive. So I think if they figured out that problem, I think it would be better. And then I think you can get even more experimental where maybe you bring back the LCK Classic, where you do something like just a blind pick game 5. And then everyone just gets to lock in their best shit.
That's not a bad idea. I hadn't thought that. You could combine the formats. You're right.
Is just drop a blind pick, everything open, you know, you just get the purest
form.
What
I really want to ask you was this, but I wanted to do it neutrally initially to see what you thought. I do think, Yamato, this is the main reason I myself was afraid of Fearless Draft, which is when you get to a game 5 like this, bro, like neither team's actually making a real 5 champion comp that they probably ever played in a scrim against the other comp. Like, remember, not only are you not making your own comp, you're making a scoffed one, but you've definitely never played against their comp. Like, the joke even on the game you're talking about where they had to lock Zilean in is, listen, that sucks for us because apparently they never played Zilean. I bet the other team's never played a fucking Zilean comp against them either. Like, who the fuck, at that point, what are we even practicing for? Like, it's like we're just doing a fucking randomizer at the last game and then just praying that, like, people pull off epic players like Chovy and fucking Ruler did. That's it. Like, what are we even hoping for? Because it does feel like that's the issue is even though, yes, listen, this might sound weird, guys, but the more random something is, the more exciting it's going to be in terms of the more possibilities because there's more variance can happen. But the downside is, like I say, I do think noticeably, you see how all the game 5s we've had in Fearless Draft, they are worse than the old normal standard draft game 5s. Game 5s used to be amazing because of pressure, not because people don't know what the fuck they're doing on these champions or the comp's impossible to pilot or like I have a really hard time. Like when people flame the coaches on the game 5 drafts, I'm like, what was he supposed to do? Like, what information do you think he's going off here? And by the way, all it'll take, you know, it wasn't standard draft. All it'll take is one pro to refuse to play a certain pick, and you could fuck game 5 so much harder than you ever could in standard draft, mate. Like, you think of some of the bad stories over the years of people who won't play that matchup on a certain side. Like, that you'd be just cooked if you were the coach. Like, even people like the Tarbers of the world struggled in this format, mate. It's fucking hard.
Oh, it's extremely difficult. Very, very difficult. It's also like mathematically the amount of mutations that you can be in a game 5. It's impossible to practice for. It's like I know that teams mostly do games of 3 or games of 5, and I can assure you those game 5s that teams are practicing in scrims don't look similar at all to what they're going to run into on stage because the champions that are out, the champions that are in, everything changes, and a champion that you might have practiced a lot might not fit at all because there's no melee supports or something like this. It's like everything affects each other, and you're bound to end up, playing something that is out of the ordinary. So you see some teams leaning into, of course, comfort, like the Nidalee angle from Canyon, which works, and I definitely think there's a layer of teams figuring things out as we go because Fearless is still very fresh and new. So there's definitely things to, like, if you can look at that MSI and look at all those game 5s and do some good takeaways for what you need to prepare. But definitely there's going to be so many games that are just over through draft. That's going to be very, very frequent. And I think people made the comparison that, there was stomps at Worlds last year. For example, finals was very, very like the games were one-sided.
The early games were back and forth, yeah, for sure.
It's like it was like, one team gets a lead, the game is over.
Yes.
But I think the main difference there is that there was an active evolution in that series too in draft, and in the game 5 we actually got Jax, we got Ori, we got all these champions, we got Gali, we got Zaya, we got all the picks that we wanted to see in a final game, and I think the cost of that needs to be like made clear because I don't think how crazy is gonna go. Like the diversity in champion select is not the end all be all. Like this is a different take on DEI, and in champion select that like there needs to be a limit, but. On the flip side, I would say that Fearless, at least we don't have the mirror matchups being played out over and over again. My joke
could be the DAI in this analogy stands for does everyone int, because that's what fucking game 5 becomes. Just who's going to int this game on a champion they don't even play. I also, by the way, even though you triggered me now, I still just can't. Listen, all I want to know is this: what mental state are you in where your brain just goes, actually, yeah, the Zillion Locket is the pick here, isn't it? Yeah, click. Yep, I'll try. What, we eliminate from the tournament if we lose? Click. That's locked in. Like, I want to know how you get to that point in your mind. You know, like
Mithy. You know, Mithy made a great point though. Did you see the Mithy point? He said, "Give us a time bank." In game 5.
Oh, no, I know what you mean. He wants a longer pick time on game 5.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's an awesome idea. That is a really good idea.
I would love that. It's like maybe if you had more time, like let's say you had a time bank of 90 seconds that takes over when the initial 30 go out. That would be lovely. I would love that.
Give you another one, or maybe you can do something like if you do your pick quickly on the early one, you can save it till the end, like a time bank that builds up or something. That would be cool. You know, so on the 5th pick, you can take like 2 minutes or something. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Because I'm with you. That in terms of every single game in all modes of failure, yeah, you don't want it for every single game drafting, right? But this would be so minor. But I agree, it could make like an elimination series so much better on the 5th game, though. Like it would make the game itself a lot better as a game. Because that's the real problem, like you're saying. You're not even thinking about the pick. You're thinking about all the possibilities of how you're going to build the comp. And then you're also thinking about what they can pick. And at that point, there's a million answers. It's too crazy. So I know what you mean. I think that's a very good suggestion.
I'm with Betty on that one, for sure.
It's good.
There's things to fine tune. I think there's things to learn. I think the benefits, like as I mentioned before, it's like we don't get the crazy mirrors time and time again. We don't get like the same matchups just being repeated both sides, whether it's like Kisante into like Nar or something like this. I think that aspect of it is nice, and I do think from a view perspective, having a game that is more centered around individual skill is more pleasant. But definitely the game 5s, I think there's things that you can change to make them better. Definitely.
And then let's just get into some of these other teams, because obviously the cool thing, like you say, about the EWC angle is you can't just take the identical form teams out of MSI, because I'm with you. If anything, like the two most obvious teams that should suffer are GenG and T1. They just finished playing like a day and a half ago, mate. Like, and then they had to be on a plane till the fucking literal desert, and then now they actually have to reboot immediately. Yeah, they get a little bit of a break, but it's only a couple of days, and then they're right back. Like, if people don't know, GenG plays in 2 days. They play that first game in 2 days against whoever they're going to face in the bracket. So, like, it is quite interesting. Like, by the way, I do think, sadly, the team that has the most to lose actually is T1. Because since they did so awesome at MSI, like, if they just came in LCK summer and you have time to build up again and, get going on the regular split, playoffs is months away, you could just ride that narrative. The problem is, it's going to be the opposite of MSI last year. If you somehow shit the bed at EWC, actually a lot of the hype's going to die. People are going to forget you almost won MSI. So, I do think there's a lot of pressure on T1, mate. What do you think?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think always with any team that just has that much fans, it's like also the detail that they won last year.
Like, true. Yeah.
That's also going to be pointed out to them, because it's like they won last year, and that was like easy work for them in some sense. They almost lost to Team Liquid, I guess. The almost in North America. There's always the same guys, but I think maybe that comes up. Like an additional detail that is so nuts is that this week EWC, next week LCK starts, and GenG has to face T1 and How Life the first week.
Immediately. It's nuts, isn't it?
Oh man. Oh,
and we're going to be eating good. It's going to be some good matches, man. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, bro, that format, the LCK format. Oh, we can talk about that endlessly, but the time will come. The time will come for.
No, I'll tell you a fun pivot is that, as I said, once you get into the bracket is BO3 until the final, right? Immediately, Yamato. Just think about how MSI went, and imagine how much more likely upsets would have been if you'd have had people like BLG playing in a BO3 instead of a BO5. Like, suddenly a lot of the Western teams could probably get them, mate. Like, let's put anyone in there. Put FlyQuest in there. Let's have them playing a BO3, mate. Like, that's winnable. You go look elsewhere. Same for, maybe a T1 can even lose. Maybe T1 can actually play. And this will make people really upset. Maybe T1 could even lose to like MCoy or fucking Cloud9. I don't think that's impossible, mate. Like, there's some fucking players on these teams. So I also do think if you're an underdog, you've got a lot of work you could do at this tournament if you fucking cook, mate. It's BO3.
Now I'm looking at some of the matchups at MSI. If obviously the mindset would be very different from Western 3,
but there was a lot of games that were 1-2 down.
CFO would win. Yep. They were 2-1. Yep. Like T1
maybe
would beat GenG.
Yep.
Yeah. It's fun. Anyone's Edge versus T1 too, and
There you
2-1.
go.
Yeah.
Yep.
It definitely makes a big difference. This is definitely like the opportunity
Just as a detail, that's also where I know people are just stuck on the Gen G narrative that they're chokers. Bro, look how many times they came back from like 1-2 down and clutched out the series. Like, again, if that was T1, you'd all be fucking shouting from the rooftops, guys. So you have to update your formula eventually. Come on, boys.
Yeah. There's very little consistency and like the
Oh, wait, you nailed it as well. I'll tell you another team that I think, vice versa, unlike T1, this team has everything to play for. It is CFO, mate. Mate, with the squad they have, first of all, they might even do this BO1 just upset Animal Life. It's a BO1, for fuck's sake, just one game. And then you imagine in a series, mate, they could beat a lot of people in BO3. I think there's not many teams they couldn't beat. Like we said, they could beat T1. I don't know if they can beat Gen G, but I think they could beat almost anyone else. It's going to be really exciting. I'm hyped because I'm with you, mate. The jungle mid of that team is legit.
The most disappointing aspect of this, like the whole, like EWC is the opportunity for the wildcards to really like get a win on the board, definitely. But I still have no hope for the European teams.
Okay.
I even in that context, it's like if I want to imagine a G2 upsetting anybody that should be above them, even that is hard to imagine in the best of 3 context.
I know what you
B1,
mean. G2, I'm with you, because for me, they've never truly had like the magic this year ever, even when they were in the upper bracket in LEC. But the one that is the bomber is Koi for me. I thought Koi really underperformed in MSI, mate. Like, if I rewind to what I thought was possible before MSI, they have a chance in BO3. Obviously, it has to be the right opponent, maybe, but I don't totally give up on them.
Yeah. No, same. I just Elioya is the one. Right? I was very hyped on Elioya, and then like when he did these interviews where he's talking about how like he was scared in those games, I was like, oh, and obviously it's borderline parasocial, but it's like I had a different image of how he would approach those games, and it really put a different framing on some of the past international performances of Elioya in these games, whether it was that game 5 against down 1 at MSI that was so close and then they just went for a tower dive that wasn't necessary, or anything else really. It's like you're contextualizing words and putting a different framing on it, because I didn't expect Elioya to be the one who have that fear coming into a game. I saw him as the guy who, together with that team, to have the confidence to rise to the occasion if an opportunity appeared, because sometimes it does happen.
Here's the thing, Yamato. As usual, I will provide the narrative framing to make this interesting. Because if you were a EU fan, your punishment has only just begun. It must be more severe. Here's why. You don't understand. Right now, you're like Batman when he had his back broken, but now you have to watch on the monitor as he destroys your beloved Gotham Bane. Because here's the problem, Yamato. It's bad enough that G2 had all those like epic games in the plains. Then they were looking so shit in the MSI. Bro, I want everyone to go and look very quickly at the group stage. They might literally not even get to the main bracket. They are in the same one with the Furia team that wasn't even terrible, and FlyQuest and C9. These are BO1s, guys. There's a world where G2 might not even make the main event. Like, I have to actually as an AU fan, I don't like the idea that FlyQuest and Cloud9 might beat them. It just might happen. It's real. Because I also think people are going to underestimate Cloud9. How are you, mate? As the strength of their fucking solo laners is legit, mate. They can go head to head with Caps and Broken Blade today. We can watch that match immediately. Like, if you're G2, you might even get bounced in this BO1 part, mate. This is scary.
I think on paper, I expect C9 and Fly to be better. I think it's borderline that the B1 system maybe favors G2, because I think on paper they should be worse.
Okay.
That's how down I am on G2, that they should be happy to get B1s against C9 and Fly, because at least maybe if they win a BO1 against C9, they can spin the narrative and they say, we won one against North America, woo! And then lose best of 3 against Billy or whoever in the quarters.
No, that one is scary, seriously. And then similarly, by the way, I'm sorry, MCoy, I'd be taking Flying Oyster and Animal Life to get out of your group. So this could be the worst tournament ever for EU, bro. Might just both be done in the plains. Like, what the fuck? By the way, they're already intolerable anyway, the bloody Americans, when their region's better. It's like, I don't want to have to sit through that fucking conversation. Especially because we all spend every episode talking about how their league isn't even real. It's just some Mickey Mouse bullshit. And no one watches it and they're better than us. Like, what are we going to do with that? That's whack, innit? It's fucking whack, bro. It's whack.
I don't know why the tournament organizers put C9 and Fly as the opening game.
That's weird, isn't it? I know.
I don't know what happened there. I'm not so sure. It's also like you have all the American teams on the top side, the Brazil team too. I don't know what happened there, but it is what it is. Now I'm with you. MKOI should also be in trouble. How Alive, CFO. They are blessed that they got the BO1s in there. You know, at least you know they got a lot of practice. You know, G2 and Koi got a lot of practice on the BO1 fearless in winter. Yes, so they will put that to good use.
Oh, by the way, since they did reference it on the broadcast quite a lot, actually, for MSI, a bit like we have the same thing in Counter-Strike, the number one team, GenG, is on a crazy winning streak, guys. I think it said that they've won like 28 series in a row, something mental. I think it was 28, if that was the number. It was something mad like that.
Is the
24?
Number now?
Let's have a look. What would it be?
I think 24 or 23,
GenG
I think it is
win
now.
streak.
It was 18 and then 1, and then MSI was 4, right?
Let's see.
Because LCK was 19, then MSI was 4, so it's 23.
It said coming into the tournament they were on a 21 game streak. So how many games were there at MSI? 4? Would it be 4? So I think that's 25. I think they're on 25. Anyway, the point is, if they win 3 here, they could be on 28. By the way, already it's insane you're winning without ever dropping series. But like, let's just touch on that a second, right? People are this is the other reason why I feel like T1 and GenG, essentially Faker and Chovy narratives, ruin League. Because everyone's talk is, it doesn't matter how T1 does as long as they win Worlds at the end. That just erases it all. Meanwhile, it's the opposite for Chovy. It doesn't matter how he does in the rest of the circuit. He has to win Worlds or it doesn't matter. So what people are missing is, like what I said earlier about the MSI one. Bro, this GenG team is legitimately going to be like a contender for like best team to ever play League. Think about the conversation we even had before MSI. The conversation people kept asking us was this, Yamato. Is this the greatest topside ever? In general, we concluded, yeah, probably. Right, think about this for a second, Yamato. You've got the best topside ever, plus Ruler, who might be the best ADC ever. Like, how goated is this fucking roster? And they're still going and they're right slap bang in their prime. Like, this team could win everything, mate. It's fucking nuts how good this squad is.
My angle is gonna be if GenG are undefeated at this competition, I will count it. If they are not, I will not count it. That's my angle.
I see what you mean, right? So if they lose, it's like, look, it's only official riot streak. It doesn't count. Okay, I see what you mean, right? Okay. But you just mentioned how many games they won otherwise. Yeah, they won 28 games, yeah, 28 series. Yeah, sure. No, I'm with you on that one. That's a good angle. What about, I'll tell you what, I actually do think as well, another angle for me is, because I'm also thinking narratively, because I'm with you. In general, EWC, it's only if it's like a special result that it'll make it stand out in people's minds. Like T1 winning last year actually was a big deal. I actually do think if GenG had just won really easily last year, no one would have given a fuck, actually. It's kind of the idea that like T1 bounced back, holy shit, and then they won that BO5 against top esports, super dominant, right? I actually think if you want to look at this tournament, I'll tell you a team I think have loads to gain, and it is anyone's legend, mate. But, bro, if you were like Tarzan and anyone's legend, you win. Look, this isn't a riot tournament, it's still an international tournament. And if you beat like T1 and or GenG, that's massive. Like, that would make it so much more hype going into Worlds for an LPL team. Imagine if anyone's legend. And it's doable, mate. Like we said, this is a fucking doable result.
Yeah, definitely. I think anyone besides the 2 finalists has so much to gain here. It's just an opportunity. I don't see anyone's legend. Anyone's legend seems to be the type of team to be pissed off after going out of MSI. I don't know where they stuck around, because I know that the EU teams, I believe they flew home to Europe. I imagine like.
By the way, even though I understand, Yamato, like in this case, some of them even are going EWC. Like, I get it that there's other stuff, but I don't know about you. I am actually old school in the sense that I think if you come out of a tournament early, you should actually force everyone to stay and just think the whole time about like, we should be here next year. We should be in that match. You know, what you're going to watch this quarterfinal, because I want you to think about how next year we're not going to get bounced there. I know that sounds like some old school, like, fucking super discipline. I think that's meaningful though. I hate it because they do that in Counter-Strike too now, by the way. There's people where if you're a favorite and you get bounced immediately, you just go straight home like a day later. But I've always thought, like, I don't know if you get the lesson from that though. You know what I mean? I almost want you to be watching the final and it be killing you inside that you're not playing it,
I can say, bro, 2022, when we lost to Rogue in the semifinal, or like the lower bracket final.
No, the Malmo one.
like watching the opening ceremony of that the Rogue G2 series,
Yeah.
like it was impossible. Like I hated it because it's like I fucking hated it. Like I wanted to I wanted to leave, but it's like my mother was there, my brother was there, they were like, we want to watch. I was like, I can't. I fucking can't. It's impossible. I'm getting so pissed off. So it definitely has an effect on you, because that is haunting me to this day.
Good. Because if you were coaching, you'd want to be there yourself, wouldn't you, and make it
Yeah.
right? And yeah, of course. No, I'm with
Definitely.
you.
Where do we go now, Thorin? Where do we go now?
You know what? There actually was a piece of news, bro. What's going on? Can someone explain this to me? It was only fucking not that long ago. We did that whole thing like, well, Maple's retired. Now he's like, fucking, this guy, I'm back. It's like he saw CFO. He's like, wait a minute, our region's good again. And mate, someone said a stat, so I looked it up. Right? Remember, Maple did have 2 stints outside of LMS. He obviously went from LMS to the LPL first. It didn't really work out. He was actually in Sony, if people don't know. And then he eventually went, and he was obviously in TSM most famously, in probably the worst era of TSM ever, when they were more concerned with whose car can I steal than are we good at League of Legends, apparently. So anyway, here's the detail though. If you look only at when he was in LMS and PCS, right? Listen to this stat, Yamato. You're going to think this can't be real, right? When he was in LMS and PCS, Maple is on an 11 split winning streak. Just 11. I didn't say 11 total. He's won many more splits than that, Yamato. He's just won his last 11 in a row in the LMS and PC. Is that like a fake stat or something? What are you talking about? Does he just like turn up and they just hand him the trophy and then play the game just for the sake of it? Like, how goated is this motherfucker? No wonder he thinks he can come back after fucking, I'm back. Golf got boring, I'm back. Except here's the thing though, he's got his work cut out for him, mate, because he hasn't got Judge here now. He's on CF4. Honkyu's the shit. I'll tell you what, here's the good thing if you're Maple. He is fulfilling a factor I really appreciate in sports and esports, which is, you know, when you have those people like Michael Jordan, I mean, Conor McGregor probably threatened this at one point, Khabib did it. You know, when people retire in their prime, I hate that, Yamato, because what I hate about it is this. I always think a really beautiful thing narratively in sports is that when you're the one on the rise as the up-and-coming player, you get to beat the legends or be beaten by them. Like, sometimes they're on top and you can't get there and you're reaching constantly. But then finally, when you topple them, you get, it's like wrestling. You need to be put over at the WrestleMania by the Undertaker. That gives you the ultimate moment. So I do think it's way cooler. If you're Honkyu, it's way cooler to get to beat Maple and then go to the international tournament than it is to go, we'll never know what would happen if Maple was here, you know, or he used to beat you when he was on this other team. It's way cooler to do it this way. Like, I think that's dope. So even though, look, if he comes back now, I doubt he's really going to be like going super hard. And I imagine this is the end of his career. It's probably just one more year, you know, that shit. But it's got its own angle. Now that CF4 is good, it's an interesting angle.
Yeah, I feel like this is like akin to like when Bjergsen came back for 100 Thieves, you know, it's like...
Well, let's hope it's better than that.
I think it's going to be akin to that. Like the timing in terms of carrying on, like the win streak is going to be tough, man. CFO look very, very impossible to beat. I thought the interesting detail was as well, it's like, oh, they signed Maple. They got rid of Fofo, a player I don't like. So that's going to be a big plus in my book always. And... they got the title sponsor back, PSG. I wonder if it was like,
Oh, you think the Saudis made the call? Like, yeah, bring Maple back, bring Maple back in the lineup. Okay.
Yes, I wonder how much money Maple got for this.
What you mean? It does sound like that's just like someone was like, "Hey, actually, here's all the money." And they're like, "This much money? Yo, Maple, one more year. Put a 0 on the end of the check." And they've got Carson with him as well, which, by the way, I love that combo. One of my all-time favorite combos. Fucking dope in it.
Yeah, I remember screaming against those guys back in 2016, and they were completely blasting us with LeBlanc Lee Sin. I will never forget that. Flash Rules. That was a long time ago, but an unforgettable experience because we got blasted. It was like the first 2 weeks of getting annihilated at the boot camp, sure. And Flash Rules was a big part of that. I thought it was also like in the detail. It also said. The jerseys will feature the Qatar Airways on the front. That's what was stated. So it's funny that you mentioned the call. Let's talk about the money. I hope Maple is making bank. God bless him. He deserves it.
And also, I mean, what was the other part? Oh yeah, I don't. No, I'm here. So
Oh,
on the,
oh,
I assume it's just your camera, mate. I was moving
oh,
all
yeah,
the time.
okay.
The other thing as well is I know what you mean on the 4-4-1, because if people don't know, he had a really weird career because he himself was like a super dominant mid laner in the LMS. Then when he went to the LPL, he was actually somewhat good. Like he was decent when he was in like the EDG, that one play. The problem is though, this guy for me never was clutch. Like he was never the player in the playoffs that could perform it, and actually he did fuck all. That if people don't know, that's exactly what Maple is. Maple is a fucking dope international player, bro. Like you just put this guy in a series. They might not win the series because they'll be playing like LPL or LCK, but he's going to win at least 1 or 2 games himself. Mate. He's going to pull out a classic and give. And also, one thing I always appreciate about him, he plays really ballsy internationally as well. Like he actually doesn't play like he's scared. That's one thing I think is the edge that people will never understand. If you want to see the example of what I said earlier in the episode about how if you were a Western team and you could go and play Korea and China all the time, the LMS proves it. That's what you always have 1 or 2 teams max. Flash Wolves, AHQ. Now it's fucking PSG Talon and obviously CF4. If you're in that region, because you do get to scrim LPL, you do get to play Korean solo queue. Like that is big. You can see the effect it has. Like their players should be comparable to ours in the West, but I think that's an edge they have because the difference is if I am like Honkyu, I'm not scared of Chovy. I've played him a million times in solo queue, bro. I've probably played like 50 scrims against him, you know. If I'm the guy, if I'm Vladdy, I probably just played Chovy now. Except I didn't because I didn't even get to the tournament. Like I'm still waiting to play Chovy, bro. Maybe I played him at first stand, you know what I mean? Like you're not in a great spot. So I do think that's underrated. Is like it is the best min-max like fucking region. Taiwanese top team is always the best min-max in League of Legends history, bro. Like they have a chance to beat the Asian team. Even if they don't, they have a chance. I think it's just nuts. 11 in a row. Come on, bro. How greedy are you? It's just like the fucking guy. Come on, let your little brother win. Nah, I just win them all. Draw for me. Fuck you.
11 is
Bro,
crazy.
that's in a row. Again, someone look up how many he's actually won. If you go back to all of them, like he should make it. By the way, how has this not been done? I want a picture with Maple just with all the domestic titles he has. Like, I want it to be like him. I want it basically to look like he's sitting on that fucking throne from Game of Thrones, but made out of LMS and PCS trophies melted down and just behind. That's what I want. I want that shot of Maple on the throne of the LMS/PCS. That's fucking dope. Also, I just love it when by the way, another player where if we're doing regions, get his fucking legendary skin ready then. This guy's another fucking guy who played like 10 years. Remember, he was on, these guys were on like that fucking Gamma Bears lineup from Season 3 Worlds where Faker beat them in the round of 8 and they just had to go straight home after one match. Like, he's had a fucking insanely long career. There's longevity's nuts, mate.
Oh, damn. I didn't know it stretched that far back. That's crazy. Holy maple. That's mental. No, the 11 in a row stat line is still stuck in my head. I'm kind of rooting for him now and I make it 12 somehow.
Well, that's the thing. People said, because obviously when he was playing more recently, he was playing with Junjia. Well, he's on 11 streak and Junjia's on a 6 streak. Well, one of them's going to have to end. So someone's streak is going to end at this point in time. Someone's going to have to actually share, not just take all the trophies themselves. Although I have to say, that's the interesting part, isn't it? There's the rivalry too. Because that's like, you know, we got divorced now. And then he's looking at fucking Honkyu, but looking back at Maple, like, mate, my old buddy, that's fucking Junjia's life now, mate. He has to pick between the two. He's got his new bitch, she's hot as fuck. But I tell you what, the old one, the ass is crazy. He's been on the Stairmaster, mate. What are you talking about? The old girl's back in shape. You know, she's been lifting backpack up the hill, everything.
The narrative's all cool and all, but I think CFL's going to cook him, bro.
Probably will. Let's be real. Sadly, probably will.
Boiled. I'm probably going to tune in to watch those games, though. That's for sure. We're going to tune in to watch those games. We will talk about some of those matches that occur when the big profile ones happen with CFO and DLC TCP. I think they've earned our time, you know, definitely.
And by the way, as we pointed out, this MSI was also quite cool because aside from the Western teams, bro, there was almost every Asian team except BLG had like a good tournament. Like CF4 was fucking awesome. It wasn't just that kid. How the hell live rent free, man? He's like a sim or something, mate. It's mental. I know. I can't handle it. He's doing like real life /dance in the game of League, but in real life, like. whatever that diving guy, it's fucking garbage in it. I will say, please just play him all the time. Stop playing the fucking rest guy or whatever. Like get him the fuck out the server. That guy shouldn't even be in the game. What are we even doing at all? And then the other one is Anyone's Legend also awesome. People are just forgetting because T1 was so good. Bro, they almost beat T1. So, no, I actually think ESWC, here's the thing, Yamato. Yeah, it is a bomber that it's so soon after. And logistically, I do think it means a couple of top teams have to play worse. It just seems unlikely they all play as well. But because I'm from the world of CS, you have to realize, Yamato, we do have tournaments that'll be like, right, you're in Romania today, and 2 days from now, you're in Brazil. Game on. Chart your engines, ladies and gentlemen. Like, we do that in CS, so I don't mind it. I just want to see more league. Although, by the way, as you said, we go straight from EWC to like, and completely gangbanged by all the regions again, all at the same time. Oh, the next, you think it's that you get your break from league. You haven't got any break. The next month's going to go hard as fuck, bro. Hard.
Oh, definitely. I wanted to ask you a question in regards to CS. Because in terms of where, like the best scrim culture in CS, where is that located? How do scrims even work in CS?
Well, that's the interesting thing, because Counter-Strike, I think, is a very different game in terms of practice, because obviously the best scrims in theory is Europe, because it's the best region. But the difference is, I do think there's more of a divide in Counter-Strike, as in, I think if you're the up-and-coming or the mid-table team, it's like being the Western team going to the Korean boot camp for Worlds. You're just trying to win the game because you want to have the validation of like, holy fuck, I can beat the best team. But the other teams that are the elite ones, they're more like the top Asian teams in league in that analogy. They're playing to practice. Like, remember in Counter-Strike, you're running tactics, you're trying to figure out, did something work correctly? Maybe you'd reboot something if it didn't, like, right, run that play again. We're going to do the same thing, but delay your smoke by a second or something. So to me, there's so much sort of like, aspect that you have to run against everyone in Counter-Strike. I don't think it's more about like this grim record in that sense, you know, like that whole thing that G2's created of like, but if we're beating everyone in scrims, then we must be awesome. It's like, I think in CS, it's because you play tournaments like every 2 or 3 weeks, it's more like is what we're doing what we want to do, and does it work? And then you test that obviously against the top teams. But like, put it this way, there's been a million times in Counter-Strike where the rumor from like an analyst who knows one of the teams is like, holy fuck, this team's beating everyone. And the amount of times that team didn't win the tournament is a lot, mate. There's a lot of times someone was the demon, but it's more, you know, that's probably more like they're playing to win, or they're just good. No, it's not under pressure or something, you know? So I would say it's interesting. I would say it's more of a divide in CS of like whether it's like to win the scrim or to just practice, just do intentional practice as they call it, you know?
And then in terms of like solo queue, like Face It, is that like something that our players do, or is it like
that's the interesting part. I would say in CS, it's more just about how your team is doing in competition as to whether people flame you on that. As in, if you're the guy where your team is winning most of the tournaments and getting top placings, people don't really care if you don't play that much Face It. It's not like solo queue in that sense that people will like harass you that you didn't play it that much. With that said, if you are doing badly in tournaments, you better be playing fucking tons of it. Like, as an example, when Simple just did this comeback for the major now and played in FaZe Clan, that is one area people did flame him on, which is it does look like he wasn't grinding super hard before he was picked up by FaZe. It's the other way around. He even says himself, what happened was when he got called by one of the players in FaZe, he was like, oh shit, yeah, I do want to do that. Right, fuck it, I better get serious. Stop drinking, start. It's like, no, like, I do think it's more like if you play badly, people will criticize you didn't play the Face, etc. But it's actually an angle I find quite difficult too, because I do think much like solo queue, I don't think it has much connection to competitive play. In my opinion, you're just working on individual mechanics and, you know, understanding of like abilities, etc. in league, obviously. I don't think actually the extra 3 hours in solo queue affects winning the LEC game, for example. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it's more just general level and how much do you care. I think, here's what I would say. I would say individual play in team games like that is more like, it doesn't tell me how good you are as a player. It probably just tells me how much you care about trying to be the best. Do you know what I mean? It's more a marker of like a good attitude or like a work ethic, you know? I don't necessarily know it's what makes you the best.
Okay. And
because there are definitely some top pros that barely play that shit and just basically play the scrims and the officials. But we have officials so often. There's another thing we have in CS. Like you have a million stage matches if you're in a top team. So you get a lot of reps in like the hardest environment.
Yeah, I feel like this time between like the major and IM Cologne, this was like the one of the bigger breaks that I have experienced in CS. But
even then, it's still only 3 weeks, mate. Yeah. Still only 3 weeks. Not long, is it? I know. And by the way, they've already got a LAN going on now in Belgrade, like you say, Cologne. That's next week. So no, CS is always going to be fired back up in that sense. Why? Much like the same thing happened in Valorant, because Valorant's a riot game. People tried whining about burnout in that game, and everyone in CS just looks at you and laughs in your face, mate. We play like 4 times more games. What are you talking about? Like, it's nonsense.
You know, I've had that same discussion, but I do think there is a exhaustion that comes with doing things that are very mundane and repetitive. I think like league play can burn you out because you are practicing so much and doing something that is not so extravagant, and you're playing like league match after league match that might not be super important, sometimes important. And I do think that can have like a different level of fatigue on your brain than when you're like changing environments, traveling, seeing something new, different
Oh, no, I
events.
think that's way better. I'm with you, yeah.
And then like you can kind of reset your mind. It's like, oh, we lost this competition. Okay, we have the next one.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you lost the league. Oh, fuck off for 3 months. Then.
I'm with you. I actually do think it's counterintuitive. I actually think being at home and playing in the same studio in a league every week is way more, as you say, burning you out than even what seems like the opposite, which is travel to Brazil one day and then Russia the next. And then, well, maybe not Russia now, but you're going to, back in the day, China, like in a weird way. I know what you mean. It gives you a mental reset, doesn't it? And it's segmented. Like if you were doing badly in week 2 of a league, that's still weighing on your mind in week 4. We've got to catch up on those games. If we're in a totally different tournament, I forget about that one because I can win this tournament and then who gives a fuck? I know what you mean. I do think that gives you like a mental cleanse in a weird way. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Well,
right,
that
what
my
about
CS question hour?
It's all good. Yeah, if people don't know, I think Yamato said he's going to co-stream I Am Clone, right? You can do some CS?
Yeah. I'm co-streaming I Am Cologne for the first time. I'm going to cover that. So that's going to be cool. Like I used to play 1.6, so let's see how much I can put to use. I hope the map pool is not too new.
Oh, here's the joke, Yamato. That's actually the analogy I can give you as to how esports works in Korea. In Korea, it's not that everyone's obsessed with esports, by the way. Like, if you go and ask a random person in a shop who's 25, they don't watch LCK, mate. They don't play League of Legends now. But if you ask someone who's 25, have you ever played League of Legends? Yeah, they probably played it when they were 13. If you ask someone who's 35, have you ever played StarCraft? Yeah, I played it when I was 12. That was what I used to play. So if people don't know, even though Yamato's known for being from League of Legends, I already know for a fact before he tells me since how old he was when he was a teenager in Sweden. He's definitely played Counter-Strike. That everyone has. Everyone went to the LAN cafe and played Counter-Strike, of course, right?
Of course, man. Inferno Online, baby.
That was the thing. By the way, I'll even tell you a random story before we switch over, because we'll talk in a second. I've got a funny story, one Thorin's funny anecdotes. I don't think I ever told this story before, so I'll tell you it now. Right? You obviously know the legendary Heaton. If people don't know, probably the most famous Counter-Strike player of all time to this day. Maybe Simple's overtaken him now, but especially from the old versions, he was like the boxer of CS, basically. He wasn't even the best player, much like Boxer, but he had the most iconic brand, right? Because he was the one with all the spray and that amazing 1v5 against 4 Kings on Aztec. We all remember all the classic moments. But what's funny is I've known Heaton literally since the beginning of his career. He was like a teenager, and he was, even when he was on like teams that weren't always winning, etc. And I've known this guy many, many, many years. So when I would go to Sweden, and his team famously, a lot of them were actually associated with Inferno Online, and they'd have that like practice room in the venue where they played their scrims, and like prison, you could look through the glass and see them play, like, oh shit, that's Heaton or whatever, or in the modern day Spawn or fucking Forest or something like that, you know. And when they would go to Inferno Online, probably the most famous LAN cafe in central Stockholm, if people don't know, when you go there, it's because it's downtown, it's going to be locally, there's going to be all the good food places. So I was saying to Heaton one time, like when I was at an event, this is like in like 2011 or something, 2012 or something like that, right? I go to Heaton, what's the best kebab place around here? Because I like, you know, like proper Swedish kebab, not the shit stuff that's all done with the nice sauces and that, you know. So he tells me, go outside of here, don't go to the place, because there's actually a kebab place built into the same building as Inferno Online. He goes, don't go there, that's not very good. He goes, go around the corner over, and like if you go further up, there's like an old, you know, it's like one of those ones where it looks like it's from like the 60s or something, but that's the one you want. You want the one where you sit down with a proper knife and fork and a proper fucking thing. You're not eating out of a cardboard thing. You're on a proper plate with your fucking nice big fuck off kebab. And so I go there, right? I have the kebab, and I'm coming back because I've still got to like do like a late night interview with someone at Inferno Online. And when I walk back, this is really bizarre because it's going to leave you with a question that goes unanswered in this sort of like Black Mirror episode of Thorin attempts to get kebab, and you're going to have to puzzle over this yourself because I've never known the answer and I've never asked Heaton what the scenario was. So as I'm coming back, Yamato, you know, you can imagine me with, you know, my fucking serviette just dabbing the, you know, the garlic sauce away from my lip. I'm walking back to Inferno Online, ready to do this interview, and I walk into the building. I go past that kebab shop built in. Heaton sat there eating a kebab in there. Now, because I like mysteries, I've spoken to Heaton many times. I've never asked him why. I've never asked him, which is it, Yamato? Does he actually think it is shit but he just doesn't care and eats a shit kebab? Or does he just really not like me and he doesn't want me to be in there while he's eating kebab? I'll never know the answer, Yamato, and I don't need to know the answer. So there's a little anecdote for you. Pretty mental, isn't it? Pretty mental anecdote. What does that even mean? What does that even mean?
How could you stop yourself from asking, bro? That would gnaw at me.
Yeah, but, you know, the problem is, Yamato, low key, it hurt my feelings if it was the second one, wouldn't it? If it was like, he's just sending me away so he can have his kebab in peace. That would be more hurtful. I'd rather just live in a world where maybe he just likes shit kebabs, you know?
Yeah,
I'll take that.
Makes sense, yeah.
Now, here's the thing, though. You at home neither have to eat bad food, nor will I actually suggest that you go and eat different food while I eat shit food, because we have an awesome sponsor. It's HelloFresh, isn't it? Remember them? Now, in the summer, obviously, everyone wants to get out and about and go and do things, don't they? You don't actually, this is the one month and season where you don't want to necessarily have loads of ingredients, start cooking things. You want things that are easy to prepare, delicious, with nice, fresh is the number one word of the summer, boys. You want things that are nice and freshly prepared with lovely ingredients that aren't frozen, don't you? So this is the time to get into some HelloFresh, because they have all sorts of delicious recipes, home-cooked meals that you can have delivered via your schedule that you can set to your door. You can try things like panko-crusted chimichurri barramundi or sun-dried tomato grilled cheese sandos. They've got over 100 seasonal snacks, sides, and treats. And they also have their new ready-made meals, which, as the name suggests, super easy. You just pop one of those meals, which is chef-crafted, in, takes about 3 minutes, and you can be eating immediately. There's a really easy way to plan out your summer night, right? They've also got all sorts of delicious types of foods, like they've got their Southwest-inspired chicken bowl and stir-fried udon with pulled pork and veggie. That sounds fucking awesome already, by the way. There's creamy Alfredo truffle chavatappi pasta and an Indian-inspired chicken paired with turmeric rice. These all sound great. Also, again, you just bang it in the microwave. You'll be eating it as soon as possible. They use high-quality ingredients, fresh produce that comes from around the farm and the world to your doorstep. Easy-to-follow recipe cards, or simple, as I said, heat them up and eat them options. Easy does it. They've got their prep and bake, ready-made meals, up to 60 recipes you can choose from each week. So you can also, by the way, keep your variety massive. Like, try a few things the first few weeks, then switch it up on later weeks, or go back to things that you thought were classics. So how do you get your hands on some of this delicious HelloFresh? Well, here's the answer. You just go to hellofresh.com/LFN10FM and you will get 10 free meals. That's 10 with a free item for life. That's hellofresh.com/LFN10FM for 10 free meals and a free item in every box. hellofresh.com/LFN10FM. One box with an active subscription. Free meals are applied as a discount on the first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. Thank you to HelloFresh. Obviously, shout out anyone who gets that. Let us know what's the best of the like easy prep meals. Do you have the prep and bake? What's your style? What's the best? By the way, give us a recommendation. What's the best thing on the menu at the moment? What do you like? That actual pulled pork and veggie thing sound baller. I love me some fucking pulled pork and Asian style food. So thank you to HelloFresh, and let's keep talking. Where do we go now? That's the question. Where do we go now, mate?
Where do we go, Thorin? I feel like we covered MSI well. Covered EWC too.
Was there any more news that I've missed? There must be some shit happened. What happened
It's
during
just
the
the
last
crazy off-season bullshit, you know. That's
Oh
like the
yeah,
big
some
one.
roster moves. There's
also like a pretty big community reaction to Caedrel announcing that he does EWC, right?
Oh, okay. Do you want to do that? Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. We can do that if you want, Yamato. So people don't know.
Yeah, go
There's
ahead.
obviously every year around EWC, you're going to see this same thing happen, which is anyone who's talent who accepts either to be on the broadcast, the quick shots of the world, or if I think maybe even Atlas did it, or you can have like the people who do the core streaming, obviously, because at this point in time, core streaming is the broadcast, it's just an alternative broadcast, right? What people are going to do is this thing, which I'm kind of baffled by, Yamato. I genuinely thought it would be the opposite. What I thought would happen is once every fan who watches these tournaments accepts, well, that makes me, on some sense, complicit with what's going on with the Saudis, etc. Surely at that point, it would be the opposite. You'd go, well, I don't want to keep thinking about the fact that I'm contributing to this, so I'll just let everyone go have a pass. Instead, what we're doing, because it's esports, is people who accept to do EWC in any context, so Caedrel's obviously being paid to co-stream, they're getting raked over the coals as like scumbags and immoral. But by the same people who, as far as I can tell you, Marto, don't mind the players playing in the tournament, like Faker's allowed to play, and they themselves are going to watch the tournament. But then what are we hating on Caedrel for? Do you know what I mean? So give me some thoughts. What's your thoughts on this bigger topic? Obviously, you said you're going to co-stream it anyway, but what do you think about this bigger issue? Because I want to know where you stand on this.
Because on my end, it's weird where people draw lines for other people, and they want to push those lines onto other people. Like if you choose, like, I think Dom's messaging was like he didn't, like, Dom's messaging was very good. He makes his own choice, didn't judge anyone else.
He wasn't judgmental either. Yeah, he went out of his way.
Didn't judge anyone for it, made his own choice, and that's it. I think that's good. I said myself, it's like, I know that, you know, esports, and like I take money from many different sources, right? And I don't have control over that. And then at some point, I need to ask myself, it's like, do I want to be involved in esports or not? Because this is the direction we're heading in. And in my mind, I made my career off of esports, and I needed to survive right now. And maybe in the future, I'll have different options, but I would never close that off by attacking anyone else for the decisions they make. I do think the main thing is like messaging. I think that there was, you know, I think Caedrel said last year that I think his point was that he didn't think too much. Like, he didn't think that the tournament would be reoccurring, and he didn't like the format at the time, and the timing of it was bad because he was like very, very exhausted and fatigued, but he didn't like close any doors for himself.
Okay.
I think that there was like one time where he tweeted under, I think Chronicler said that he's not doing EWC, and then he tweeted under that he's based. Like, that was like the main thing that is held against him.
Okay.
That is like one thing that is held against him. That's what I read. But I think in the grand scheme of things, I think anyone is free to make their own choice. I think people should vote with their view or with their money, and that's what it is. But beyond that, I don't think there's much more to do. Like, I don't think it's that deep or complicated. Like, I understand that people look at it as sport washing, because of course it is. I know from the Saudi side that they want to like diversify their business portfolio to be anything else but oil, and use their massive cash to bring in any form of business into the country. And that's like their idea of you know, incorporating themselves in the West. And sports washing has been something that has happened in every country. And I don't buy the argument that LPL is China and LTA North is the American government, and those arguments people do, which is silly, which is very, very silly. But in the end, I think it's just a question of, you know, I think it's something that is personal. You're allowed to voice it, but I think it's weird how people draw very strange lines. Nobody complained about the teams. Nobody complains about Riot. Like, they have made this from a PR side genius. Like, they tried to pull the same stuff with the gambling, you know. I'm not sitting there reading the gambling news. Like, they could have stopped league gambling years ago. Like, this has been ongoing. Like, what are we talking about? Why are we talking about it as if going to be new now? It has been a part of the scene since years and years and years back. Like, they are just doing PR jiu-jitsu Riot Games. They are not getting any shit, you know. They are somehow just getting off scot-free. It's very strange how you choose in point, but I think it's just a question of proximity. I think the proximity to streamers and creators is just too parasocial, and I think that's where the core of the reaction comes from.
No, I'm looking it up now, but because what I was looking up while you were just searching there is, for the millionth time, you've heard it before, Yamato, but I'll just repeat it for the millionth time. I don't actually have a problem with anyone doing anything with the Saudis. By the way, here's the thing, and in this sense, I think Caedrel's quite similar to me. He just cares about the game. He just wants to watch good games of good teams playing, and so. By the way, that means, depending on what era and time, there's plenty of countries and weird places and weird regimes and stuff that if you had an awesome tournament, I'm sorry, I would watch it. I even said this as a joke when they announced the Esports World Cup, Yamato, because in StarCraft, they put like an insane amount of prize money in. I even said, this is where you know the Saudis aren't actually super familiar with the history of esports. Because I'll tell you what the OP min-max move you do is this, Yamato. You don't even need like 50 million or whatever. If you just made a tournament that was in Quake 3 or Quake Live, and and the winner gets $1 million. Do you know how many old school esports people, the entire industry basically, would watch that tournament to watch like Cooler play Cypher and play fucking Rafa and play Gav? We'd all watch it, even though, by the way, it wouldn't matter in the context of esports. But I'll tell you what, the whole industry would pretend for that week they don't have a problem with the Saudis because we all just want to see some fucking awesome old school esports with like crazy prize money. It's immediately entertaining. No one got into esports because they're a fucking saint or some moral person. It's fucking video games. We're just here to watch the best video game players play. And so just like in boxing, if they have an amazing title fight, it doesn't really matter what you think about politics. You're going to watch the fucking boxing in Saudi, aren't you? You're going to watch that fucking awesome intro. You're going to watch fucking Tyson Fury walk out with Badadan remix by Jason Status or whatever with his fucking little... You're going to watch it, of course. So my problem is this. When I was looking up, I always say this, Yamato. I'm not Richard Lewis. I'm not saying I think it's just morally wrong to work with the Saudis, so don't do that. The reason I don't do it is because I knew, like on shows like this and Four Horsemen, I am going to constantly point out people were hypocrites for working with the Saudis. So even though that doesn't mean I would be a hypocrite for not working with the Saudis, but I would be a hypocrite in the sense that I'm calling you out for doing something I then do. So I don't work with them anyway. But my issue isn't that people work with the Saudis. It's if you have gone out of your way to go, hey guys, give me a medal. I love all gay people and all women and all minority. I fight for everyone who is oppressed. God, let my people go. Then you can't work with the Saudis. I'm sorry. That ship sailed, bro. You can't then go, hey, can I have a giant bag? By the way, if you knew the money I've heard Caedrel and them are getting offered, it's crazy money. Like, put it this way, they'll make more doing one EWC than like probably Caps will this whole year or something mental. Like, we're talking monster money, like big time. Again, you all go, how can anyone say no to the bag? By the way, where's all the credit for Dom for saying no? Where is that credit, by the way? Dom literally is a guy you'll all never say is a good person, but he's done a literal act to turn down the bag. None of you would turn down, but you're all going to tell me Caedrel's the best guy ever, and he won't turn the bag down. By the way, they both make millions of dollars even outside of EWC. Like, again, I'll just throw this out there. People always say, it's easy to fucking say no when you're the rich guy. It's the other way around. It's harder when you're rich. That's when you get offered millions of pounds. Like, if you're the nobody, you can say no because you're broke anyway. It's the other way around. It's easy. If you can't turn down the bag when you're poor, you'll never turn it down when you're rich. That's when you got the best opportunities ever. So what I was looking up, Yamato, is this. As far as I can tell, unless he's deleted them, Caedrel doesn't make tweets about politics, bro. I was looking on his Twitter now using advanced search. I was looking up diversity. He only tweeted the word diversity once. It was about LDL drafts. I was looking up LGBTQ, never tweeted that word ever. Gay, never tweeted. Pride, he just tweeted some shit about Caps being the pride of Europe. Like, he's not the guy. Virtue signaling. This is what I don't get. Here's the thing. I even like Quickshot, and I definitely understand why with his current circumstances he does the Esports World Cup. But you know what, Quickshot? I told you this to your face. I'd tell you it if you were on the stream right now. You did definitely virtue signal like a motherfucker about Neon though, mate. You were all over that shit. You know what, Shocks and Law? You were all over that shit too. All of you people. Not some of these people aren't working with them. But if you ever do work with them, I will criticize you. I will point that out, that you did do it. I just don't get, like you're saying, I don't know what Caedrel's done wrong. As far as I can tell, it's just because he's the biggest streamer. Like, this isn't hypocritical behavior. As far as I know, Caedrel just gives a fuck about the game, mate. He's just trying to watch the best game possible. And so if this tournament comes along, it's an excellent chance to make a massive amount of money, and he's going to take it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I've had the take that I wish that the league circuit was more like the CS circuit, and the money that needs to fund that is like gambling money and Saudi money. So like on my side, in terms of what league is and wanting to watch league, I'm the same way. Like I want to watch the competition. If there's going to be, great players and great teams playing against each other, that's what I want to watch, and that's what I care about. It's like I'm aware of all the political circumstances, probably more than most people in esports all over the world, because that's just how, like if you are from Palestinian background and you are learning from your father about the world, then that's just you Al Jazeera is on 24/7. You get the news in, you know what's happening all over the world. Like you are in the loop. And the final thing I wanted to point to is just like in my mind, it's like it just seems like the lack of empathy and forethought is always there. I think that's always the main fault of virtue signaling, is that nobody can put themselves in anyone else's shoes for what decisions they make or what decisions they don't do. And I think that's always the miss. And I think that was the miss during the Neo era too. That They pushed it off, and they took a stance in that moment because they probably believed in that moment. And I don't remember if they like went against somebody that didn't. Because I think weaponizing it is where it gets wrong, but switching the tune, it just as if you realize that things are moving beyond you and that are outside of your control, and then whatever decision you make with that is entirely up to you, because there are way bigger moving pieces than Caedrel or whatever that have made decisions about moving esports into that direction. And I think for Caedrel's side, the reason he might get a little bit of kickback is that I think he has built his stream around the idea of being as agreeable as possible in many, many ways. And I think now this was probably like the first big disagreeable thing that occurred for some people.
Except for that time, he said he didn't vote for T1 as the Team of the Year at the Esports Awards or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
There was that time he betrayed everyone by having an opinion that was objectively right. But aside from that... No, that's why I say I don't really get why Caedrel of all people is the one getting banged on for this. Like, I've never seen him as someone who lived this double life for pretending he was an activist. Like, to me, he's more. It's why actually, by the way, it's why I do have crazy respect for Dom for this move, because I also would have said the same about Dom. I don't ever see Dom tweet about politics or flex that he's some like super fucking empathetic person. Actually, I would have thought Dom would be the guy who'd say, listen, mate, I'm just here to make fucking sick money and watch League of Legends. Like, yeah, hook me up, let's do it. So I'm actually kind of impressed he said no. I guess in his case, he does think I've got enough elsewhere. Also, by the way, I will say if you're Dom, it's nice to also just have a fucking chill week, innit? Have a week off. Remember, you casted 1 billion weeks of the year. People don't know. One of the reasons why you will very rarely see me and Dom in any shows is Dom doesn't do other shows. Like, he's constantly fucking watching live streamed games of League of Legends, so he's already overworked as it is. But no, man, I won't diss Caedrel, but I will say mad respect to Dom. But also, I will seed this in though. Just like in the past, Caedrel never said he wouldn't work it, and I noticed Dom didn't technically say he would never work with them or whatever, right? This is where I do think it's unfair, Yamato. Every year of EWC, I predict you will get these initial flare-ups where people will go crazy at someone working it. But then each year that EWC exists, and I believe one day it will just be an MSI type tournament in the Riot circuit. I think the reason it's really unfair is what you said before. It's people just deciding, is this already someone I don't like? Oh, they're working with the Saudis, get them. But when your favourites, which in a few years will all be working with the Saudis, when they all, think of the list of all your favourite players, all your favourite fucking talents, all your favourite tournament, when they all work with the Saudis, eventually you're just going to accept it and go, who cares? But I care. I care that you pretended in 2024 to hate someone for that. You pretended in 2025 this guy was the worst piece of shit ever. But then 2 years later, when your favourite person goes and works there, you're going to go, well, what can you do? It's just the industry now, isn't it? They have to make a living. Well, then keep that fucking energy the whole time, mate. Because as you notice, on this topic, I have thought out my parameters of where I'm going to go, what I'm willing to do. And I've tried to make I will take down people I don't like, but only if it's consistent. Like I said, by the way, I made fun of Doublelift because Doublelift did stupidly joke that the Saudis are human rights abusers. Well, then if you then co-stream it, bro, that's what you're co-streaming, human rights abuse by your logic. You fucking idiot. But if you were someone who has never said anything like that and you do it, I won't flame you. You can work the event. It's all good. It's not a bad topic.
It's funny. I looked up because you mentioned that I'm co-streaming.
Because we did the Poppy one last week, didn't we? We already did that one.
I thought it was funny.
There was one piece in it. Oh, go on. Tell me what you're going to say. Go on.
No, I just wanted to say, it's like, I just pulled up like the sponsorships of IM Cologne. It's like, I know that IM and the ESL is owned by the Saudis, and then it's sponsored by the US Air Force.
Of course.
That's just where we are at.
And by the way, here's the difference. That is a sponsor you can claim, much like the Saudi one is fucked up. That is the government, that is the army, well, the Air Force in this case, that's the military of the USA, a country, sponsoring, which means, by the way, funnily enough, they're working with the Saudis doing this. If you look up people getting bombed in Yemen by the US Air Force, you can criticize that. That's very much like criticizing the Saudis. The problem is, no one ever did criticize it before this, Yamato, just because of the Saudis they do. And then secondly, people sadly take every other tournament and go, hey, the CS major was just in America. Yeah, Donald Trump wasn't fucking involved in it, you idiot. He didn't go, hey, awesome, like, and you get to double bigly good. He didn't say anything. He wasn't even involved. So I hate when they do that whataboutism you're talking about, where they try to act like every tournament in the West means you're part of like the military industrial complex. Like, no. By the way, if every tournament in the West was actually involved with the US government, I would have a bigger issue with it, of course. That would be scandalous. There would be questions you'd have to ask yourself. That's not the case when ESL runs a tournament or fucking Blast in this case in CS. Oh, there was one piece of news actually that I did see, which is that Striker, the coach of BDS, re-upped his contract. He's going to be there for a while now. By the way, I'm a fan of that move. I think he's a really good coach.
Yeah, I agree. I always bring this up when people are hating on Europe. Like BDS is like, they objectively made upgrades. They took a risk with the whole Crowny and brought in Ice, right? And Ice turned out to be like a super strong player. They brought in Parus, and their BDS Academy team is a team that has just churned out like players, and they were winning and doing really well. And of course, the LFL and EMEA Masters. And now, when the team was stagnating, not working out, they just moved on and grabbed like one of the most hype rookies of course, Korea in Rooster. Like I like the fact that they are actively moving, and I think that's a positive force in the in the region, because not every team can be the best. Like, you need to have some mid-pack teams that are trying to actively make improvements to challenge the top end in their own way. And I think that the line of gameplay in terms of how well coached BDS was at their best, I think it was very obvious that this was a very well-oiled machine. And I think they always somehow, maybe not this year, but they did better than what the sum of their parts were. So I think Striker has a good track record, and I think that that's super huge.
No, I'm with you. I think it's an exciting squad. I also think with someone like that, he clearly has his own input and mind as to how he wants his team to run and what players. It's just a matter of time, in my opinion. Whether it's, look, it might not be able to get done this summer. It's going to be a hard ask. But if you ask me, next year, this guy will be a coach of a team that will probably be top 4 at LEC. I think that's totally plausible. The difference is, there's rosters I think have awesome players. There's not many I think have great players and a great coach. I think this is actually one of the better coaches in the league. So put the right players around him, I think he'll get there. I don't think he was that far off now. He had moments in winter and times at spring where they looked good. Parts of the roster failed, didn't it? So, oh well. Right, there's one last thing though. Wait there 1 second while I just grab something.
All right. We're waiting for Thorin. I have no idea what he's grabbing, guys. I hope he's not more foot pictures. All right.
Because there's one more thing.
We're safe. We're safe.
The Turtle Beach Stealth 700s. This wonderful headset here. This is actually a banger headset, I've got to say. I'm usually not a big fan of gaming headsets. This one's awesome. Like, really sturdy materials, nice big. Like, look how much bigger it is, by the way, than my ear ones I've got on now for the show. Fits really nicely over my whole ears. Totally. By the way, I have a massive head, but you can go way beyond the level I'd need it to get on my head. Also, it's got that thing where it's wireless, but it's got the mic. So the mic just comes down like this. Nice and easy. But also notice how it goes away. It's super neat. So you're not going to accidentally trip over and smash that on the edge of the desk or something. It comes with 2 things you plug in for the wireless. So you can have it on multiple devices at once and switch between them with a button. So you can listen to music, you can take a call, you can be hooking and listening to the podcast, you can be playing your Xbox, you can be on your PC, whatever. As people might not be aware, they actually have loads of stuff that's not headsets at Turtle Beach. They have mice and keyboards and flight sticks and driving controllers. They have loads of different things in that sense. They have amazing battery life. So it's really easy. It has an 80-hour battery life. 80. Bro, that's over 3 days. That's fucking nuts already. So it's not one of those things every day you have to charge it. You don't even have to remember to charge it. If you do need to, by the way, they have the quick charge thing too, which basically means if you ever in an emergency need to charge, you can get a few hours of time out of it if you're about to commute or whatever and go wherever or you go into the library to study or something like that. So I think it's actually a baller headset. I think it's really, really well put together. Feels lovely. Nice memory foam pad things on the ear. Doesn't get too hot. So for a limited time only, get 10% off your entire order. So that's everything on the Turtle Beach website, which is turtlebeach.com, using the code summoning. Easy to remember. SUMMONING. So don't miss out. Stay warm and level up your game with 10% off at turtlebeach.com using promo code summoning. Thank you to Turtle Beach. Thank you to everyone who buys a headset. Let's do a little break and then do some viewer questions to wrap.
Sounds good.
Right, we're back for the final segment of the show, which is, of course, viewer questions. Probably do like 20 minutes or so. If you don't know, the viewer questions are sourced via the Last Free Nation Discord. You have to be a subscriber there, but if you are, you will then have access to a bunch of channels, which also include for like CS shows, Hot Take Point Made. The Hot Take Point Made League of Legends is coming back soon enough, so I'll get your takes in there to be criticised by me, Kira, and Zabatine. But I will now obviously pick out questions for me and Yamato. If for some reason you don't want us to mention your username, just say that in the question. Just say, please don't read out my username. Right. The first one will be... I tend to just make it varied as to which ones I take as well. So... McBurney says there was a lot of pushback before Fearless was implemented, saying it would be worse for the competitiveness of the scene. Have your thoughts on Fearless changed?
I think like we covered most of it in the episode, right? On the topic of Fearless, right? I think there's definitely a benefit because...
Do you think it makes it more competitive? Is our tournaments more unexpected winners because of this format, do you think?
I don't know. Like, I think MSI in particular, like, I think we will feel it at Worlds. Then we will feel it. I do think the double elimination gives it a little bit of leeway, right, in terms of MSI. But at Worlds, maybe we're going to feel like the pain of like certain drafts not like going the wrong way. But I think the main issue with like measuring how competitive is or not is like there's still some, let's say, user error still. When you land in a bad draft, it's like you can still blame someone and people are going to blame. It's like FlyQuest should have known, they should have prepared or something like that. And I guess in that element, I don't know. I feel like the sample sizes that we are allowing ourselves to have in esports are way too small to make like really, really good assessments, because this year might just be more competitive because GenG and How Alive and T1 happen to be fantastic. So it's like always a tough thing to measure. But the fact that we got so many Game 5s, I don't know if it's because of Fearless. I sincerely don't know. But at the same time, I think usually MSI tournaments, they come into it and teams are very, very sharp on one identity. And I think moving away from that definitely invites more stomps if I just think, like less stomps if I just think about the game as a whole and where we've been in previous years. So I think by that fact that even a team like GenG can have like a sloppy skirmish game because that's not like the biggest strength in terms of like skirmishing like the first 5-10 minutes of the game, and they can lose against an AL or lose against a T1 in a B1, but that's because that's not their strength. So in terms of measuring competitiveness, I think it's very, very hard.
I will just say, in terms of like that thing, I would say the area I was wrong was I don't think it's as big a deal for most of the games in the BO5, but I do think that is what we're seeing in the Game 5. I think Game 5 is just a step too far in terms of the having it like this approach. Like, put it this way, I'd even be more willing to do like best of 3 double elim or something if you can do it like that. Because the Game 5, unless you change it like you're saying, like blind pick, or maybe you have more time to think, I think you're just getting into a world where you're on some Doctor Strange shit. There's like a billion permutations of what the other team can do. Whereas like most of the greatest Game 5 drafts in normal standard draft is like, actually, you did a really good job guessing what he would do. You figured out like, oh, right, I can bait him into this pick. That was Dylan Falco's whole style. It wasn't like having a crazy pick himself. It's more like, I can make you make 3 decisions that are good, but they lead to a 4th decision that's bad. And that bad decision is what fucks your whole comp at the end. Like, I think it's almost impossible to do that at times in Fearless, it feels like. So I do think that's an aspect I'm not a fan of. But aside from that, but it's not as bad as I thought it would be. It's just, I do think the Game 5 is a bit fucked at the moment. Right, here's one for me, actually. A guy called Gojo says, Thorin, has Chovy overtaken Rookie as the GOAT for you? Because remember, I say Rookie's the best of all time, but Faker's the GOAT. It's an interesting question, because I would say this is what I've been thinking about recently. I do think Chovy is the only person I've watched where the peak level that they've shown is at the level of like Rookie and Faker. Maybe it's even better, let's be real, because he's more recent than them and how good he is. I think actually you can do more things in the game. Like some of the things he was doing in that Aurora game, like that would melt your brain if you saw that in 2015, mate. So I think in that sense, he's already up there. And crucially for me, the angle about Rookie people always miss is he has amazing longevity. If people don't know, genuinely until something like 2 years ago, ago, he was still literally contending for best mid laner in the world. Like he had a longer run, in my opinion, than Faker did as like true world #1 contender player at your position. Not just best mid laner or winner or champion. No, just individually the best. The difference is Chovy's finally is the only player I think maybe Knight could have done this if he'd had better international performance. He's the only one coming close to that longevity, man. Like Chovy himself's put up like half a decade now. Like this is getting really seriously crazy. So I will say it's not about winning worlds. If like Chovy keeps this up for a year or two, yeah, I'll probably change my opinion that Chovy's the best of all time. I think it's a totally, because I always say this, Yamato. The reason why what I've tried to do is I try to study other people's thinking, almost like an anthropologist. Like, how do humans think about these things? When most people say GOAT, what they actually mean is you have the best career, as in you won the most championships, most MVP. What they mean is like you have all the markers of like this is the best player ever. That's why they'll say weird things to you, Yamato. Like, well, what more could he do to be the GOAT? Well, that makes sense if you're thinking of it like a video game, right? You have to complete this level and beat this boss and get this badge for doing the thing with no deaths or something. When I think of GOAT, what I mean is I could pick a day where this guy was the best player to ever play the game. And if you watch that game, no one ever played the game better. But I think that's quite different because I do think as a result, you can be the GOAT in terms of your career, but maybe you didn't have the best day. Like, I don't think Faker would have the best day ever because unfortunately, Faker's prime was in the early part of the game. So, by the way, even those awesome moments we all remember, Yamato, like the fucking dope Riven game against KT in 2015 summer, that wouldn't look as good if you pull it up now, Yamato. It's going to look, that at the time that was crazy, now it'll just be a really good play. You know what I mean? The difference is if I watch what Chovy does now, it's still really fucking nuts. I've told people this before. Go look up a rookie highlight clip, like a video of like 10-minute montage. Some of his Orianna players, you'll be like, is that the same champion I play in the game? What the fuck? It makes the ball on Orianna look like the most OP thing in League of Legends. Like, go look it up. So I do think it's a valid. What about for you? Could Chovy, can he be the best player you've ever seen?
I think in terms of like individual peak, I think Chovy is my guy because that's the metric I go by when I think of like the best of all time. It's like who over a longer period than just one tournament, like let's say like half a year, even a year. How if I just take 1 year and compare that to everybody else's in terms of gameplay and level, I think Chovy wins out for me. Just the fact that he did and does what Rookie and Faker did in their eras and his era, in a far more difficult one, I would say. Because I'm with you. It's like I have gone back and looked at some of those games, and they don't look as pretty as they were in those moments watching them. And Faker was ahead of his time. Rookie, the same. Like I think 2018. Rookie was so special. It was unbelievable just watching him in scrims. Like when we were bootcamp vitality, I've never seen anything like it. It's very rare that players just like stun me completely in terms of how they move, and Chovy has done that in the modern day. Like if I think back to the last year's MSI and also the run up to MSI, I don't think that anyone has achieved like a higher like rating performance in a game. It's kind of like the comparison I always make is that Faker is Garry Kasparov in the world of chess, but Chovy is Magnus Carlsen in the sense that he's like maybe at the middle part of his career, and Magnus like he's just finding newer and higher peaks. And I think for me the boat metric lands exactly there. I think Chovy's my boat.
Also, hopefully this discussion, if I give one piece of framing, should show why Rookie was in this conversation for me. Because think of the three players I've picked there, Yamato. So I've picked Chovy, Korean mid laner, played his whole career in Korea. Faker, Korean mid laner, whole career in the country of South Korea. Rookie is Korean and he's played the majority of his career in the LPL with Chinese-speaking players. If people don't know, he had himself to learn Mandarin. Like, the idea you can even be in this convo, this is why it can't be about championships. Let me know when, you know what? You know if Faker went to the LPL, he literally might have never won anything ever, and that might not even be his fault. You get on the wrong team, it's a really hard league to win, by the way. You got to play with scoffed languages. That's why, in my opinion, you can't count these championships equally. You know what I mean? Like, but it's where I would love to be able to do the run back of let's just have all these guys. Or I've always thought, Yamato, even though it would have made the global scene weaker, part of me wishes there never were Korean exoduses, you know. The whole time, every great Korean player just played in Korea. Because I can tell you from Brood War, holy fuck would that have been hype. Imagine imagine the world, by the way, where simultaneously in 2020 you have Faker, Showmaker, BDD, fucking Pawn, who else? Keep going. Who else? I missed out. Scout, fucking Rookie. God, there's a million, mate. I probably even missed someone there. Who am I missing at this point in time? BDD, Chovy. Oh, everyone, mate. It would be unbelievable, wouldn't it? It'd be like the craziest rots. Imagine all the positions. It'd be so... By the way, ADC would have been Godlike, Deft, Viper, Ruler. They're all the Koreans, you notice. There's very few players. It's only the bins of the world that get put in this. Even the Shy would have been here. Fucking hell, bro. The Shy would have been there at the same time as Smeb, Nagori, Khan, Gimme. Like, these are like the Hall of Fame battling each other. Like, the actual real tragedy is this. I want to now get in that fucking portal with Doctor Strange and go to that universe, mate. I want to see the universe where Koreans just only played in Korea. Now, that would have been fucking crazy. But I'll tell you what, though. There's not enough championships to go around. Someone's missing out on this one, mate. Someone's getting fucking nothing because all those people are playing. So would be a very different world, certainly. Right. Then I'm going to go to... This is a good one. Like, Kenji wants to know... I don't know if you're aware of this concept, but I'll actually take a concept from chess and explain it better than he did here. He said, is there a single game VOD you could suggest to study from the game's biggest players as a signature or a career-defining performance? So he gave an example of, if you ever saw that Zika Game 5 Worlds 2022 quarters against EDG, the one where he, like, I think it was the Akali game, where it's either Akali or Sylvanas. I think it was Akali. I think it's the one he smurfed on. Basically, I don't know if you know this, but they already have this concept in chess, Yamato. It's called the Immortal. It's the idea that you pick a game that just is like the best example of what that guy's strength was. Like, this is the best game he played of that style. So we don't have to do a crazy one, as usual. Just think of one or two. Is there like games that come to mind that you're thinking of that like it's like definitive to that player? It's the signature game.
It's funny that you brought it up because like there was a period in time where I started that series, like the Immortal game for players, but I just stopped because it's just
was there a really good one you picked out? Did you have a good one?
So there was three that I put up, which of course it's like the Faker one is the easy one, like the Game 5 Faker, whatever. But I think Perks Game 5 versus RNG 2018. I think that's such a legendary game. And then another one that comes to my mind is just the Ruler Game 3 on Varus when they won the championship. That's also just such a like monumental moment, and in terms of like gameplay and the performance there, it's simply astonishing. And then something that is a little bit off the cuff, a little bit out there is Milky Way Kindred. I don't remember exactly the game, but there was a game where he played Kindred where everything was just pixel perfect. I'm trying to remember what the matchup was, but in terms of his understanding of where the next camp would spawn, in terms of the mark and how he would manipulate it in his favor, and he would just end the game with like 14 marks, and you just sit there and it's like the enemy actually couldn't do shit. They just played it that well. I will find that game and maybe post it online at some point, but that game was definitely like a work of art.
Quickly looking something up here because I'm trying to find when this guy actually played it. So let me just double check. I've got a good one for you. Wait there a second. So it looks like it's in 2022. I'm just going to find one for you. Now, that also is a really great content series idea. Like, I actually do think it's a great idea from chess, and I think it would be awesome. Because obviously the reason this would be really cool if someone did that as a proper series is I would love to be a new fan and go, oh, what the fuck? Can I look up? And then instead of me going on about Rookie from years ago, mate, I could just show him like an Oriana game. I go back and watch this one here and you'd see some nuts shit. Like, by the way, as I'm looking this up, already, I haven't specifically looked up Ruler, but the jokers for Ruler, it would be the two MSIs he won. Go watch. There'll be a game in there. Maybe it's a Jinx game. Maybe it's one of the Zeri games from 2023 or something. He had some unbelievable games in these two MSIs he won, mate. Like, ones where, again, it's just peak Ruler. It's like, this kiting's perfect. The spacing's perfect. As long as you go in and peel for him, he always steps forwards. Oh, there was some glorious games he could have had from these two. I'm just double checking this one game, because there's one that when I find it, this is like definitely the one I'm going to pick out. So wait there a second. I think I've got it. I think I've got it here. Yes, here we go. It's actually one that some of you might have seen the clip for. It was in LPL Summer 2022 in the playoffs. It was top esports against EDG, and it was game 2. And it's one where Jakob went 9-0-7 on Zeri. And it's the one where he did that impossible base defense, if you've ever seen it. Like, one of the fucking craziest, like they're coming in to, like, fucking take his base, basically. And like it's like it might be like, if you don't know, I think him and Uzi I hit the highest mechanical peak he ever saw in ADC, and this game was bonkers. Like, it's the one that there's a famous LS clip on. I'll link you to here. I'll put it in the chat there. You can just look up. It says LS was amazed by Jakob's mechanical display. Like, this clip is fucking impossible. If you know anything about ADC, it's impossible to be this good. Like this, because I do think, sadly, he had it. Obviously, internationally, he choked a lot of times, but in the LPL, this guy's actually one of the most underrated carries ever. I think, mate. Like, in domestic seasons, Jakob was a demon for years as well. And this was even the era when, like, top esports was a little bit ropey at this time. Like, this is the one where they obviously failed that Worlds and lost to fucking Gam and all that shit. It was embarrassing, but I'll tell you what, he was unbelievable domestically. Like, this one, you remember this clip I'm talking about? It's nuts, in it.
Yeah. No, but the moment you said that the base defense, then it came back to me.
It's just too good, isn't it? Like you watch it the whole time, the other team's just supposed to win. Oh, JDG, sorry. Maybe I had the wrong one. It's JDG in that clip. I said EDG, whatever. Look up whichever one he played there. Maybe that was the round afterwards then. Maybe it was like the semi-final he played there. Let me see. Oh, I was wrong. Yes, it was actually a 15-kill game on Zeri in this one. It was game 2 of JDG in the semi-finals. There you go. Back when JDG had Yagao, because obviously Knight was on top esports back then, if people remember. There's one straight off the top of the dome. Funny thing is, I actually think we already talked about it here. Bro, even though he lost this game, if you want to rewind, I think a defining game was that one when Damwon was sus and Canyon still played the game 5 in Italy and almost carried the game. Bro, the fact, I don't think anyone could have carried that game. In fact, when I watch all these game 5 in Italy games, none of them are playable, Yamato. Like, I don't think fans know, because they've just played low-level solo queue. Right, if you just don't even have winning lanes, it's over as a Italy jungle. Forget being in game 5, and then also, this guy, like I say, gaps the other jungler with the clear every fucking time. Like, this is why he's just goated. Like, no one could do that shit. I can set up the right game, Yamato, where Tarzan could look like the best jungler. I could set up a game where Peanut could look like the smartest jungler. I could set up a game last year where FPX fucking Milky Way looks like the most exciting jungler. No one is as good as Canyon, mate. And these games, no one can play this shit. These would all be nightmare fuel drafts for anyone. And you can tell he's telling his coach to draft this for him. He's opting into these gangster fucking picks. Because what I love about that, Yamato, is that's saying as a jungler, and think about how few junglers would say this. Normally junglers don't want to be blamed. This is the guy going, you know what, give me maximum agency, but with the hardest possible draft. I'll figure it out. Just, you guys pick your lanes, I'll figure the rest out. That's fucking dope, mate. So maybe I'm thinking of that Worlds one, probably like 2022 for that one. I think it was Worlds, right? Damn one. Against GenG, I think it was, right? Game 5. That was a stud, man. Right, let's go on. Next question.
Let's move on.
Here's a good one. Layer 8. Who is a player you either A, wish would have, or B, are surprised they didn't write a Dunzo manifesto? You remember the old school Link from CLG Dunzo manifesto?
Of course.
Remember that? So which is it? You have to pick one where either you wish they did a Dunzo manifesto, or you're surprised they didn't do a Dunzo manifesto. Who'd you take?
Holy, I don't know. The first one that comes to mind is Mr. Mickey X.
Woo! I can tell it. You know what? I'll tell you this much, Yamato. Obviously, mainly people want to know about G2. And I can tell you, G2 has very successfully convinced a lot of people that their NDAs might be held up in court, bro. Let me just put it that way. So it's a reason why I don't think you've ever heard anyone say anything about G2 once they left the org. I know what you mean, though. There's some stories that one day might come out, put it out.
He left
some good
twice.
Ones. Yeah,
he left G2 twice.
Some fun stories there, I'm telling you.
And also, I want to hear the whole open story inside of when Jess has benched him to sub himself in. Because that is just for
the
me.
Misfits one, right?
Yeah, because there's been moments when Mickey has been, let's say disrespected when he really shouldn't be. When he's like one of the greatest players Europe has ever had, and he's like top 5 in the GO conversation in Europe, and the stories that he would be able to share would be very spicy, to say the least. So that's the first one that comes to mind for sure.
I have a good one along those lines, because you will immediately get what I mean by this. This player not only has all the stories, but unfortunately his personality is he never will do this. Bro, if I could sit someone down with the truth serum injected into them and they had to just say all the things that happened to them, mate, I would love to sit down for 3 hours with Hillisang, bro. Imagine Hillisang actually had to say all the things he thought about all his teammates, all his fucking coaches, all the games he played. By the way, all the times he entered, what he was thinking. Oh, mate, that Dunzo manifesto could clear anyone's, because mate, he would have some fucking mental stuff. I mean, I've hinted at some of them in videos. There'd be some fucking nut stories out there, bro. Some really out there ones. And he's been in a lot of great teams too. And it's just a mystery of a person. He's an enigma, isn't he? I tell you what, I actually am. Here's the thing: when he says hasn't done it, it's harder to do that. Like people you thought would have done it but didn't. Because, for example, even though like Doublelift didn't do a Dunzo manifesto on his stream collectively, he's done like a million clips telling every bloody story he can think of in his career. And every time he did something in TSM that they didn't like or whatever. So I feel like a lot of people have done this. I'm trying to think who you would think is more likely would do that though. Do you know what's funny? I'll give you an example of someone who could have, but yeah, I think it actually shows maturity that he didn't. I'm actually low-key surprised by how well Upset has actually played his career. Bro, if you have those times you come 10th on some of those rosters where you're not the worst player on the team and there's other people fucking shit up and there's crazy background stories, you could easily think, well, I'm going to be the one who looks good here. I'm going to come out and tell all the stories. Fuck it, right? This person wasn't practicing enough. He doesn't play solo queue. This guy over here wouldn't play. If you tell those stories, sometimes if you do it right, you get sort of like, you get the pass and the other people get blamed. He's never done that as far as I know. As far as I know, he's never attempted to tell all in any context. He's actually been fairly restrained, quite mature in that sense.
It's hard to think like someone that we expected, because it's like, in the aftermath, thinking about something like that is strange. It's like a lot of the stories that I like. Perks is someone that I would expect to be like vocal about things, and he was to some degree about like the team heretics.
He did that Sackdown episode, yeah. If you go look it up,
like the or like Wunder. I would like to hear the Wunder side of it, but he's still holding cards close to his chest, because I think he still wants to compete. And I bet Wunder has I know Wunder has a lot of stories he could share. That would be very interesting. But I think we are too close to the scene to know who would.
I've got a banger.
I've
got a banger for you. This is just someone I wish would do it, because what's going to be funny here, Yamato, is I'm going to show you the world from a different perspective. So, like, I'll give you a random example. One clip that I always thought was quite funny, it was pretty well done, to be fair. I think it even came from, like, How I Met Your Mother or something stupid, was the premise that if you think about the original Karate Kid film, but from the perspective of Johnny, that, like, blonde-haired kid who was the bad guy, actually, he's the hero of the movie. He's the Karate Kid. He's the one, that's his area he comes from. He's one of the best. He competes at a local dojo. He practices proper karate. He goes to the tournament. He's one of the best fighters, He only loses because some weird immigrant fucked up punk kid who came along cheating with some old man using devil magic and like doing fake techniques that aren't even real. He just comes along, gets like demon juiced backstage so his legs better, then does like some like bullshit like one trick move and kicks you, ruins the whole thing. Like actually the Johnny guy, he earned that. He was the fucking best at karate. So in the same way, I'm going to give you a perspective that changes everything. Do you know the Dunzo manifesto I want to read? I want to read the translated from Korean Piglet Dunzo manifesto about how they were all pieces of shit in Team Liquid and how they were all retards who held him back, and about how this Dom guy was smoking crack and didn't even know how to jungle properly. And then he had fucking, he had like Phoenix did that one great play on a Zay, but then kept locking it in every game, never did anything after that. Like, I want to hear that. I want him talk about how he made it special cry. I want to hear it all, bro. That would be the one, because you just know he'd make it like he was the victim in the whole thing, even though he was sort of the piece of shit in most of that stuff. I'd love to hear what he thought about Dardock, like Nate. What did he even think of Dardock, bro? That would be an amazing Dunzo, man. It has to be translated from Korean, obviously, but I would love to see that.
It's a good one. That was a good one.
I think we'll do 2 more questions. So here we go. It's a good question for you. So Fede says, what do you think of Eminem's music? Where do you rank him among the all-time great rappers? And do you view his influence on hip-hop as positive?
I think I think Eminem's influence is very clear. I think in my mind, it's just one of those like he did the Bjergsen, you know, like he came back and he didn't play well, you know, he didn't play well, and then in people's minds that have, especially the ones that are driving the discourse, I think like music. The music genres and what's popular tends to get defined by the younger audience, like people like in like their early teens or like their mid 20s. Like they are defining what is popular. Maybe nowadays with the internet, it's like what is mainstream. It's like mainstream is pretty much dead in the sense that everyone can connect with their own communities when it comes to whatever music choice you have. But Eminem really was insane in his early years, and I think his influence is like I would be surprised if Eminem doesn't make it to someone's top 5 in terms of like rappers. I think his influence and also his take and how raw it was in terms of his experience, I think really like in terms of writing, it was just so damn insane, because it wasn't only like about being, you know, vulgar and crazy and out there. It wasn't only that. It was just that he was pushing the boundaries, and he was a little bit punk in the sense, but at the same time, his storytelling was also insane. Whether it was his relationship to his mother, or his drug addiction and how it affected his role as a father too. Like, I think his early run was just so amazing and so influential, and I think people that dislike Eminem are looking at it for the more recent work, even though I think the Death of Slim Shady was a solid record.
Problem is, I will say I haven't listened to his last like 2 or 3 albums. So I'm mainly just talking about like the first 2/3 of his career, pretty much. My problem with this is, I'm with you. I think the beginning was so strong. I even think the album he did before he became popular, Infinite, was pretty good. So he did that one. Then the first 2 mainstream albums were unbelievable. After that, though, I think it's diminishing returns. Like, I think the Eminem Show was like half a good album. Also, Eminem Show and Recovery onwards for me, Relapse, became more like Encore, sorry, became more like almost like club tunes rather than the type of rapping you're talking about. I thought his first albums were way more raw and personal. Then this 3rd and 4th mainstream albums were more like, this is just a cynical song to like be #1 in the charts or to be played in the club, or it's just about a girl having a great ass or something like that, which I don't think is like the most enlightened material. Whereas I do think, actually, like you're saying, he was trying to be more of like a bardic figure in his early career and sort of tell stories about the background he came from and what it meant in his life, etc. So to me, after that, I was not as interested. And then I will say the middle to latter part of his career, I just don't find it very interesting overall. Like, I think his material, I think he kind of lost his voice a bit for me. Like, his actual technical ability is still good. Even then, though, I think that has aged not as well as people thought it would, which is, once upon a time, just being able to rap really fast was considered really skillful. I think you have to be like, to me, he just stays in that one style a bit too much, you know. Like, I'm not a big fan of the rap god type of stuff. It's not really my style, mate. Like, I like people like Rakim who can do that and be like super lyrical, you know, and do some amazing illusion or something. I think some of his stuff's a little bit too punny for me, so I'm not that big a fan. And in terms of the all-time rappers, like, he's a very good rapper, but if you're talking about the greatest of all time, I don't think, the problem I think with rapping is there's so many elements to it. Like, your technical ability is one thing. Like, by the way, if you don't know, some people are amazing rappers. Like, if I had to do my top 5 on my Mount Rushmore, I would immediately have Nas on there. Nas isn't necessarily the most technically gifted rapper. He raps off beat half the time, like, but he's just, his content's amazing. His fucking sort of the presence, the character he creates in your mind is super sick and really addictive, a bit like Biggie or someone, you know. So I think he's up there, but put it this way, I do think Eminem's a little bit overrated, not least because his numbers are too crazy and everyone does that thing where there's also an element where they do just do it because he's white and he's also really amazing. That makes him extra amazing to some people, whereas to me, I just care about how good you are at the actual discipline. Right, the last one we will do, here's a good one. Big Boy says, do you think there is a realistic chance that franchising is removed or the LOL circuit is fundamentally changed within the next 3 to 5 years? What do you think?
Well, someone can hope. I would imagine that Riot is trying to figure out a way to like smoothly move on. The issue is that teams have bought in and like they've bought in equity, and if they intentionally dilute that, like, it would be very bad. And for them to move on from a circuit like this, it would mean that they would need to push for a buyout that would be so damn costly that it would be like unfeasible. It's like to kill the LEC or the LTA tomorrow would cost like 200 million to pay off all these teams that have equity in the league. I think it would be. I think it's just a question of how long can the teams in the LEC and LTA survive before they're like, yeah, we just want out for cheap. And then I think Riot will restructure everything and move towards a more CS-like structure. We talked about it many times, but I do believe like you can take the top 3 teams from every region, and though they have the majority of the fan bases, and you just make them clash 6 times a year. I think that would be amazing. And then just make, you know, the leagues just tier 2, and that would be way better for the ecosystem, I would imagine. But the transition is what's awkward, because I know Riot wants to do this. They should want to do this. They should want to move in that direction, because I think Riot has also realized that the cost of full control and the cost of having, you know, the say in everything that happens and how everything moves and what is advertised, what is not advertised, who gets to work the events, where they happen, and all of this. In the past, they could justify it because it was just an advertisement cost, but now it's not justifiable anymore. And I think they're looking over to the Valve model, and they are so jealous, because Valve is just sitting there, and they're like, all these TOs are running our tournaments. Our hands are clean in regards to what they do, and people are buying our skins, our loot boxes and cases, and it's a part of the culture, and there are skins selling for 20, 50, 100,000, and they're being advertised by the players on broadcast because there's a Titan sticker from 2016 on it. They are so blessed, and I think Riot is extremely jealous.
Oh, by the way, I think it's bang on, because for me, the key thing is this. I think one of the only, because notice how, by the way, people still have a very naive perception of what a franchise league is, Yamato. They make it sound like Riot can just wake up tomorrow. Like, I'm actually bored of LTA, so it's just closed now. That would be an instant class action lawsuit from all the teams involved of like, but first of all, I bought a slot in your league. Secondly, that comes with it, by the way, the notion that you're going to like continue the league to exist and help me as your business partner. And then thirdly, what do you mean you're just telling me to go away? That's why you're right. It would take like $200 million, mate. You'd have to, some of these teams would want more money than they put in. They'd be like, well, if I'm fucking off now, after investing all these years, all the salary, the buyouts, the green card, yeah, you better fucking pay me, mate. Otherwise I'll see you in court. And then I'll give you actually one of the rare reasons I think it hasn't yet collapsed, Yamato. In my opinion, it already would have collapsed, because essentially, aside from LEC, it doesn't look like any region works in terms of buying the slots. It's the only one where the slots are worth loads, and it works. Like even in Korea, if you look how much they paid, like, it was like $10 million franchise fee. They've all, even the GenGs of the world have complained you don't make enough money and this isn't good enough, etc. And even T1's tried to pivot to a different marketing angle to make their money from merch. So I think like one of the main things also propping up like LTA and LEC, particularly at the moment, is that a lot of teams that are involved also are on the Valorant side, for example. So they want to be in a different Riot ecosystem. So that means I'm not as likely to just run away, because maybe Valorant works out. Maybe that one I like. And if you don't know, in Valorant, guys, there is no franchise fee. It's the other way around. They give you a slot if you're a good partner, and then you get revenue from them. You're not ever paying the costs. And then lastly, you are right. I think the key element here is the Saudi angle. I think what will happen is, first of all, I said it before, I think EWC will just, maybe in a year from now, maybe even 2 years, it'll just be a Riot tournament. And then eventually what they'll realise, I think this is even why they made it EMEA, not EU anymore. Eventually they'll start, like LEC will just be done by the Saudis and the ESL anyway. Remember, the joke is that's where EU LCS began. It used to be ESL in Cologne in their studio running the EU LCS. Why don't we just go all the way back and have EWC, which is ESL, etc. They'll just run EMEA, whatever, winter, spring, etc., and they'll just host the finals in Riyadh or in fucking Madrid or something. Who knows? Another Muslim country is the joke there. But no, at this point, I just think it's obvious that Riot will just see that, like, one, they're going to be our big business partner anyway, and then two, just let them foot the costs of running the tournament. Why should we do it? That's what they're going to realise, Yamato, is like we can just min-max this whole scene and make even more money while having, actually, well, they don't know yet, potentially even better tournaments. Like, by the way, I trust ESL to run a mega tournament. I think at the moment EWC is just, I think they just tell them, like, it's only a week long, so you can't have a big format. As soon as you let them have an MSI type format, I bet they do a great job, mate. They'll probably be awesome. So, yeah, I'm actually with this guy. I think in 3 to 5 years is about the right amount of time. Give it something like 3 or so years, the whole scene could be like CS. And by the way, I would love that. I would love to watch a scene with tournaments all the time. Right, thank you to everyone who submitted questions. And obviously, we'll be back next week to talk about EWC and all the other leagues starting.